What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Relentless Project. We live in a world that is obsessed with comfort. We avoid stress, we avoid pain, and the moment things get hard, most people look for the exit. See, my guest today believes the exact opposite. He believes that the more stress you can handle, the more capable of a human being you become. Stephen Chin has literally been fighting his entire life. He started as an MMA fighter, transitioned into a private military contractor, became a law enforcement officer, and is now the president of Direct Action Training. He is a man who knows what it means to bet your life on your training. He saw an issue in the tactical training community, and he did something about it. He is dedicating his life to being the change he wants to see in the tactical training community. Stephen Chin, welcome to the Relentless Project.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, brother. So I was reading up about you, and I'm like, man, this is the dude I want to be. This is the dude I'm striving to be. Training is something I hold dear to my heart. I think there's not enough training, especially in the law enforcement world, not enough people training, and that's where we see a lot of the incidents that we on YouTube and online. Like I see a lot of things happen, and it all falls down to a lack of training, whether it's the department not pushing the training, people not being accountable and taking training on their own. It's a multifaceted issue, so I'm interested to see kind of where you stand with that and have that conversation. But before we get into all that, how does it feel to hear someone else's description of yourself?
Oh, that's always been interesting for me because for me, I'm a shaker and a mover. I don't celebrate any of my victories or wins. I'm just immediately what's next? Go, 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 go. Also, I'm super hard on myself, so it's always how could I do better? So I am like my worst nightmare as far as that's concerned. So when I hear other people talk about me, I'm like, wow, I did all that. I should give myself a little more credit. But I just can't do it myself. So it's always interesting to hear other people talk about me as opposed to what I hear in my thoughts in my head is completely different.
Yeah, we are our biggest critics. We are our own biggest critics. I kind of suffer through the same thing. People like be like, oh, and I'm like, I am kind of doing that stuff, I guess. But then I'm always like, I could do more. Like I want to
Yeah.
do more. I should have been different. I should have did this differently.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm extremely critical of myself. I'm harder on me than anyone will ever be on me. Even throughout my whole life and career, all my coaches were like, "Dude, take it easy. Like, get out of the gym, take a day off. Like, you're killing it. Let it go." And I couldn't do it. I was completely obsessed and consumed by anything I got my teeth sunk into. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Like I wouldn't achieve all the things that I achieved if I didn't have that personality or mentality. But at the same time, it does come with sacrifice because everything falls by the wayside to just be that zoned in on anything.
Yeah, that's something I'm kind of dealing with right now where it's like, how much is too much to take on? But
Oh, I'm
that
the
little
wrong guy to
voice,
ask.
yeah, that little voice in my head's like, no, you can do more. You can do more. You can do more. But then everyone around me is like, oh, dude, are you taking on too much? And I'm like, am I missing anything? Am I failing in anything else that I need to take away from this to focus on this? And they're like, no, but you will burn out eventually. And then my response
Yeah,
is, I haven't yet. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm seeing it, but I'm 33. I still feel like I'm 21, and I'm pushing until the wheels fall off, and we'll see where that goes. So I'm very interested to talk with you because, like I said, the training stuff is something I'm very, very passionate about. We're both active LEOs. You did a little stint of pro fighting. I train a lot. I'm big in jiu-jitsu. Did a couple amateur amateur fights, and I did well, but I was like quickly found out I'm like, you know what? You got to be a kind of different breed to enjoy doing this at that level. So that's one of the moments in life where I was like, man, this ain't for me. I'll train in the background, I'll help people get ready, but I won't be the dude locked in a cage.
I get it. It's a rough life. I mean, I loved it. I still do. Love it. But it's definitely a rough life. I think people don't realize how much until they start putting themselves there or around people that do that. And like, there's levels to this. There's levels to everything, right? And it's kind of why I am the way that I am in my company and in the training capacity and the training roles that I hold, is because I've seen the levels to this stuff, and like I get it, and you could always take it further, and someone's always willing to take it further. So seeing that side and seeing just how far you can go, and just how far people are willing to take it, and knowing what's out there, I think that's kind of why I'm so obsessed with the training aspect. And I think for people that never stepped into that world, it's not of importance to them because they just have no clue as to how far you could actually take something like that.
Yeah, and before we get into your training, mindset and approach, I'd like to give people kind of a little bit of a background of who you are, right? Like why should I listen to this guy? Who is he? Looks interesting. Walk us through your background. How did you become the man you are today? Like what got you into training to begin with, let alone creating a training company, right? Because you're a private military contractor, active LEO, pro fighter. Before all that came, who was Steven?
Man, I started young. Now we're going way back, right? I got into like the amateur game at 15 years old. I walked into a boxing gym, and I was already fighting in the streets a lot, and I was rolling with some rough dudes, and getting up to all sorts of stuff. And I just loved the fight game. Like, even not knowing what I was doing, I loved it. But I felt like I was pretty good in the street. So I walked into a boxing gym one day, and I was like, "Hey, man, I want to fight." They're like, "Sure, kid. Everybody wants to fight. Like, get out of here." And I was like, "No, no, I'm good." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." I'm like, "No, man, you don't understand. I'm good in the streets." You know what I mean? So they put me in the ring with this dude, and just he beat the shit out of me.
I quickly found
And
out we're not too good in it.
yeah, and I was like, "This is different," but I loved it, right? I saw it immediately as a challenge, and I was like, "I wanna know that." Like, I thought I was good, but I'm not, and I wanna be that good. So, showed up the next day, same thing, kick my ass again, and you show up enough, they're like, "Okay, this kid's not gonna leave us alone. Let's show him something." And then they started teaching me, and that was it, man. I was hooked after that. But different world back then, right? Like these days, you go into a gym and they're gonna give you the warm and fuzzy, 30 days free. They're gonna build you up. They're gonna start handing you belts for no reason and
10-day
whatnot.
trial. Here's your gi. Here's your gloves.
Yeah. Back then, they just straight beat the shit out of me every day for that week, and you know, not a care in the world. But I loved it. I wouldn't change my upbringing or my journey through the fight career, um, because to be a part of it during that time when it was in its early burst stages, right? To see like MMA when it was shoot fighting or Valley Tudo turn into what it's turned into today and be a part of that early stage of it was incredible. And we got some really good training back then. I mean, I think it's evolved a lot too. And what they're doing now, I wish we would have done or known back then, but it was just a different world. But I'm glad I came from that side of the house.
Yeah, it's definitely picked up a lot, especially here in the Pittsburgh area. There's so many gyms. There's a local MMA promotion, 247 Fighting Championship. Shout out to them. They're doing it big, right? Um, so you mentioned you enjoyed it. I have a similar story, right? I had a buddy bring me in. I used to fight every day in the street. My mouth got the better of me sometimes, but I did fairly well in the street, right? And then a buddy of mine's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you want to fight? Come to the gym." I'm like, "Okay." Got the piss beat out of me, and I quickly found out, like, damn, I can't fight. Like, there's people who do this every day for fun. I do it to survive,
Mm.
and now I realize I can't fight, which was a very humbling experience very quickly. But,
Yes.
so I go through the process and I want to test myself, do a couple amateurs. I'm like, man, I love it. I enjoy it. That's just not for me. However, you took a different approach. What was your mindset? Your training, it's hard, it's tough, it captures your interest, and then you want to take it to the next level. What was that motivation?
Man, it was all I wanted to do. I was completely consumed by it. I was like living in the gym. I was the manager of the fight gym, so I would work all day and then like kind of train in between. As soon as I get off, train all night, go to sleep, wake up, be there again. I literally lived in the gym. I was super fortunate too because I was able to work in a lot of like the fight gyms that were really up and coming at the time. Like at that point, Miami and South Florida was like the fight capital of the world at that point. Like there was people coming in from all over, and you had a lot of stacked names and guys down here. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of their fight camps and social circles and gyms and whatnot. So I was extremely lucky in that regard, right? And I definitely see the luck side of it, but also the willingness to put myself in those rooms and like do my part to make sure that I was there. But I loved it, and I knew I didn't want to do anything else. And as I got good at it, you know, I, there was never a thought of like I want to do something else. Like I knew clear cut, this is me. Like feel most alive when I'm fighting. I love going through the fight camps. Like even parts about fighting that people didn't really like, I still loved. I mean, like it was only cutting weight that I didn't like. Right. Everything else, I
You and me
loved it.
both.
Being 2 3 times a day in the gym, you know, just getting after it. You know, the heavy sparring days, all of that stuff. Waking up and being just beat to shit and being like, how am I going to do this again? And you do all of that stuff. I loved it. Uh, it was never a thought of for me to want to do anything else. I mean, even leaving the fight game was something that like kind of had to be pushed on me. It wasn't really my decision, right? Um, as you start going through the fight game, you start to realize there's a lot of politics there too. And luckily I had good people looking out for me. And it was like, my coach told me, "Is like, look, at the end of the day, you either play the game or get out. Because like right now you're not willing to play the game and you're just destroying your body and you're not going to get anything for it because you're not willing to play the game. So you need to make a decision. You're either going to play the game or you're going to get out." And he had a real heart to heart with me at the later point in my career. And he was absolutely right. And I was super mad at him at the time, and didn't talk to him for weeks. And he didn't want to train me anymore because of that. And it was him doing the right thing by me. And at the time, I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that when you're telling me like to get out of the game. Like, dude, I can be a world champion here. What are we talking about? But he's like, "You're not gonna be that unless you're willing to play the game and you don't wanna play this fight politics," right? So it's like you gotta choose one, right? Why are you gonna go beat yourself up and, take all the punishment but not get the glory because you're not willing to sit here and do the dance, you know what I mean? And, it was the best thing he ever could have done for me and best timing in which he did it. And, at the time, I didn't see it, but I look back now and I still talk to him to this day, and I'm like, if it wasn't for you, I don't know where my life would have kind of led me, but I could have just been another one of these great fighters that's mixing paint at Home Depot and, needing 2 hip replacements and a knee replacement and doesn't have 2 pennies to rub together. And he didn't want that for me, and, if it wasn't for him, I probably would have been that guy.
You mentioned playing the game. I'm involved in the fight game here, and I can kind of see, like, especially on the bigger levels, how things
Mm.
work. Back then, what was the game, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what were, because I want to see if it's still something that similarly happened, or I know it's gone way out of proportion nowadays with, especially when you add money, media, money, everything changes. But what was the game you were kind of the hoops and dances, generally speaking, right? We don't want to. This is more to build you and show your story, not down talk anything. But you went through
Yeah,
this. It was tough for you, and it was a defining moment where you had to make a big decision in your life. So, what were some of the things
yeah.
they were trying to
So
have you do?
fight game has been the same since it was like ancient bare knuckle boxing, a couple drunk guys at a bar, two gypsies kind of doing their thing, compared to, the big shows that we're looking at today. It's always been, a game of betting and money, and where there's money, there's going to be corruption, and people are going to take falls and be hand fed guys, and build up records with tomato cans, and then get on certain promotions, and that type of stuff in the fight game, just it very much happens. So you're going to start getting spoon fed guys. They're not going to let you fight certain people. You're going to have to fight this guy, and they're going to try to orchestrate this career path for you. And that's not what I want. Like when I originally got into the fight game, I just wanted to fight, and I wanted to fight the best, and just see kind of where I was with that. And for me, I genuinely love the fighting aspect of it. And if I didn't think I could beat this guy, like that's the guy I wanted to fight, because I'm like, that's a real challenge to me. And then they would try to like shelter certain things and kind of build you up and have you do this instead of that to try to build that career path. And I get it, because they're looking out for their 30% purse, and they're playing the game, and you're just a prize fighter in their arms, and they're just trying to get the most out of you before they can't do anything with you. And then, they're on to the next guy. And fighters have been treated like that since the beginning of time, and it's something that I would love to see change, but just it hasn't gotten better, and I don't think it will. Not until everyone bands together, right? But they're not gonna do that, just because the way it's orchestrated, right? So you have a lot of like fight promoters now that you know have their promotion, and it's like, hey, you either do what I say and fight for me, or where else are you gonna fight? Like there's not many other places to go. So they know that they have you like that. And then like as soon as you want to kind of put up any kind of argument, it's like, great, no problem. I'll go get this kid from Dagestan who's going to do it for $2. You know what I mean? He's not going to put up a fight.
Yeah, or they sign you and they lock you in and they're like, you can't take on any other fights. However, we're not going to do good by you here. So you're kind of like stuck in this gray area of like, do I jump through hoops? And not all promotions
Exactly.
are like that, but some of them are, and a lot of them are. And it's like, wow, I want to fight this guy. I have a title opportunity over here, but you're saying I'm not ready. You're not my coach and you're not my manager. Like,
Exactly.
so I get it.
Exactly.
That's a tough decision. Um, you were in the game. How long were you in the fight game for, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, I mean, I started at 15, went pro at 18. I fought until like probably mid 20s before I got out of the game competitively. So I had a long road. I had a long road, and it was good for the most part. It was really only on that tail end there where we started getting into more of the politics side. Like as you start to grow, and as the fight game was growing, because that's the other thing too. Like I think I probably would have hit it earlier if I would have started later. But the fight game was still very early days of its career. Plus, I was jumping around from style to style, and that was a very different thing too. Because I remember I started with boxing, and then I started doing the Brazilian jiu-jitsu stuff, and then got heavy into the wrestling to kind of backfill the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Then I found Muay Thai, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. Right, this is like my favorite. Dove into that. My boxing coach was super pissed with me, because he's like, you could really make a career at this boxing game. And he knew all the right people, and he's like, "Look, dude, there's no money in Muay Thai, right? Nobody's doing that." And he was absolutely right. There was no money in Muay Thai. At that point, there wasn't glory kickboxing or anything like this. Like it was nobody was really doing well with it, but I loved it. I was like, "No, but I get to knee, elbow, clinch, kick." I was like, "This is so much more fun than boxing, dude. Like I want to do this." And he's like, "Yeah, but there's no money in it. Like, what are you doing?" And he was absolutely right. And if I would have stayed with him on the boxing path, I mean, I still would have hit all the problems that I'm talking about, but I probably would have had like a much better fight career if I did that, and I definitely would have made the money that he was talking about. But I wanted to fight, right? And I just loved Muay Thai. It was more of a challenge for me. I was like, this is hard, man. Like I got to worry about 8 limbs, not just two. This is exciting for me. I want to do this. But Muay Thai was just a super underground thing at the time, right? This was early stages of MMA too, so it was still that valet judo, shoot boxing type of situation where it was a lot of unsanctioned events. MMA wasn't really sanctioned and legalized, and it was one of those things. Then it came into what we know today. and I kind of finished out my career there with the MMA stuff. But I got into that late because I was exploring all these other avenues. And it's also one of those things too, where it's like if I would have just stuck with the one discipline, I probably would have went a lot further, and I should have stuck with boxing in the sense of what he was saying. But for me, I wanted to do it all, because the same kind of things happened to me, right? So I did the boxing thing, and I saw this jujitsu guy in the gym, and he started mouthing off, and I was like, all right, well, let's get in the ring then, So we did, and then he tapped me out right away, and I was like, okay, fair enough, teach me that,
Yeah.
Obviously this works, so I want to learn it because he just kicked my ass. Uh, so then I got heavy into the jujitsu game, and then same thing. I met a wrestler, ragdolled me. I was like, dude, teach me this. Went and did that, so I was constantly jumping around styles. So like coaches and promoters and managers and stuff, they hated it
I would say
because
they
they couldn't.
loved that. They loved it. They're like, "Oh, great, he's everywhere."
Yeah, they couldn't keep me on lock, and it was super frustrating for them. But again, that's also something that I wouldn't change, man, because why I am the way that I am today is because of that versatility. I was not a one trick pony, and I got exposed to that stuff very early, and I just realized like you got to mix these things. No one style has it figured out. I mean, like I was good boxer. I was boxing with world champions. I was in like Lucian Boute's camp, Glenn Johnson. All these guys were, regulars at the gym, and we were just constantly in training camps. And then, in the Muay Thai world, I was working with like the Raul Yopis, Eric Castaños was big names down here in South Florida. These guys took me under their wing. I was working with them. James Warren was a good friend of mine. I went through all of his camps. So I was with stacked dudes every step of the way, and then like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I went on a hell of a tour for that stuff. I was the Henzo Gracie Academy, and then like Freestyle Fighting Academy with the Avion brothers. I went and worked with those guys for a while, and then worked with Extreme Jiu Jitsu with Mike Cardosa, and then got into it with some of the 10th Planet guys when they were coming down here to like the Carlson Gracie channel, and I got heavy into the 10th Planet stuff. I just loved the leg lock game, so that appealed to me, and then just rose through my you know time there. So I was stacked in rooms where I was the worst guy in the room, and the only place to go was up. And I was holding my own in boxing against world champions. I was holding my own in Thai against Lumpini Stadium champions. Um, you know, uh, with wrestling, I had Olympic and Division One wrestlers from all over the world that were using my gym that I was managing as their like off-season camp. So I got to jump in there with these guys, and I was like, yeah, sure, you could use our place, no problem. Just let me jump in and be a part of this. So I got to kind of like dive in with them and excel there. And then the jujitsu journey was huge too. I got most bastardized for that because they really hated when you step outside of their gym. You know what I mean? Like, I think the boxers and the Muay Thai guys understand it a little bit more. Jiu-jitsu guys take that very personally, especially back then. It was very traditional stuff. So I had to deal with all that um,
There were a
stuff as
lot of
well.
rules. There were a lot of rules for
Oh, yeah.
jujitsu gyms. I'm liking the new, we'll call it the new style jujitsu, where you just show up as you're drinking your monster
Yeah.
and you don't stretch. You just go in and you roll. It's all about
Yeah.
jujitsu.
I was that guy years ago. And
You had purple belt energy your whole life.
exactly. And they hated it. And it just, it took me forever to get my black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because of that. It just kept getting delayed because of me not following the rules. Um, but, I'm glad I did it that way because my greatest strength right now is my diversity. Like, dude, you want to stand and bang? Great, I got that. Oh, you want to go to the ground? Great, I got that. Oh, you want to add weapons to the mix? Great, I got that. Like, wherever you're going to take me in a fight, I've done it with the best in the world. So, like, I'm super comfortable everywhere. And I wouldn't have had that if I didn't step out of my realm as much as I did and as early as I did, uh, and take advantage of all the stacked dudes that I had around me, you know?
What did stepping into those different disciplines and fighting teach you about human nature and your own breaking point?
That's where I think you find yourself the most is through the fight game, right? Putting yourself through that type of stuff, you will learn a lot about who you are. You will learn a lot about other human beings. And there is nothing else that is going to take you there as fast. I think there's other ways to get there, but they're just not as quick. So that's a super expedited process to truly learn yourself and other people. And fighting is the truth. Because again, you can get a lot of guys that will say a lot of things, speak about a lot of things, supposedly did a lot of things. Let's go fight. If we go fight, the truth will be exposed and you won't be able to defeat any of the bullshit. And I love that about the fight game.
That's one thing I appreciate about the fight game. It's like you can be whatever colored belt, you can be however many years doing. It's like, let's go find out, right?
Mhm.
And you know, the world, social media, everyone talks about do hard things, push yourself, right? We're going to talk about stress inoculation. Where else can you induce the most amount of stress in a controlled environment that's relatively safe, right? Where else can you kind of push yourself to the extreme limit of physical and mental uh, limits to build yourself like you can with the fight game? There's not many other, like the military, man. That's like life and death, right? like, um, joining a sport. That's a good way, but like in football, if you need a break, maybe the coach takes you out or not. Like when you're fighting, you have to either win or quit or survive the round. Those are the only options. Like in jiu-jitsu and training, you can tap and that's quitting, but like you start to push yourself, right? Like you tap because you were tired your first couple weeks. Well, now you're not tapping because you're tired. You're tapping because there's immense top pressure. But now you're not tapping because of that. You're tapping because this dude's arms are around your neck and your blood's starting and the room's starting to close, right? Like you can constantly push yourself and evaluate where you're at with fighting, whether it's jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling. I hate wrestlers. Those dudes are dogs and chicks are dogs. They're just, what's worse than someone who does jiu-jitsu? A wrestler who does jiu-jitsu.
100%.
I hate it.
100%.
But fight, like training shows you a lot about yourself that you would never see anywhere else, right? Like a level of like, what am I about? Like, what will I
Mhm.
quit? Will I see something through? And that translates
Yeah.
to a lot of things in life, right? Like I would rather, if I had a choice, I'd rather be side by side with a cop who I know trains than a cop who doesn't train. And that's just not for self-defense reasons, right? They're probably going to approach things better. They're going to have a more
Mhm.
open mind about the situation. They're going to be less to escalate a situation. They probably present themselves better, right? Because they take the time and they have the discipline to go to training and do all these steps. That translates to how they walk and talk, literally.
Yeah. I mean, they know themselves and now you know them. And we know that that person's not going to quit when it gets hard. And there's levels to hard too. And like that you're learning the fight game. And I say it all the time, and again, I've done all these disciplines at their highest level. I'm an equal opportunity asshole in that regard. I will speak about all of them equally. So, uh, like jujitsu, it's one of those things where, yeah, look, you're exploring the fight game. You're putting yourself in tough situations, right? You're feeling that top pressure. You're feeling, these limbs on the verge of breaking and the ability to go out with chokes and whatnot. However, there's a safety net there, right? The safety net is I'm not going to get pounded in the face, right? And again, we're only going to be so rough with each other, right? Like, and you introduce that wrestler, and it's like, hey, man, we were doing like some jujitsu cuddling stuff here. You're getting real rough. You know what I mean?
We were flow rolling.
Yeah. And now this guy's ragdolling me, right? Like he's just taking the space that I own. He is moving mass like it's his and not mine. That's a different mentality. That guy's harder to deal with, but there's levels, right? Like I always say, you could convince a lot of people to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Most people don't want to train. We know that. But I could convince more people to get into BJJ than I can wrestling because it's like, hey, come and just roll with me. It's going to be nice. We're going to sit here and play a little bit, right? Wrestlers, they have one speed. There's nothing flowing about it, right? They're going to ragdoll the shit out of you and you're going to deal with it. So that room just immediately cuts in half, right? I can find guys that roll, but a lot of them don't want to wrestle. Then when I tell that wrestling guy, hey, let's put some gloves on and bang, let's do a little bit of boxing in this thing. Oh no, I'm not doing that. Okay, well the pool just cut down again, right? Then I tell that boxer, hey man, let's throw some kicks in this thing, work a little bit of clinch, that cuts down again. And that's what I saw mixing all the styles too, was there's levels to this stuff. And that Thai guy is completely different mentality than the boxer, completely different mentality than the wrestler, and completely different mentality than the jiu-jitsu guy. And you got to give homage and respect to the levels to this stuff. And I feel like for the most part, the fighters in the community will do that apart from the BJJ guys, right? Like jujitsu guys, I think are a little bit outliners with that, right? Where they do their jujitsu and their jujitsu only, and they're classify themselves as fighters, even though they've never been hit in the face. I'm like, well, you're a grappler. I wouldn't quite say you're a fighter until you're willing to get punched in the face. Like
That
there is a difference.
I'll
You
agree.
can't
I'll
take
agree with
away
that.
from that.
I'll agree with that.
Um,
When I go to promotions and they call the jiu-jitsu competitors fighters, I clinch inside a little
mhm.
bit. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't
competitors,
think they've earned it.
grapplers.
Like, I get upset with that. Like, for someone who just went through all these different levels, did all these different things, like, you got to be willing to get punched in the face in some capacity in order to be classified as a fighter. If not, you're just a grappler, a
Which is
wrestler, a
dope.
BJJ
I know
practitioner.
some scary grapplers, but
100%.
grapplers.
Right. So it's not to take away from them, but it is to also just be realistic with it. Right. But like, I don't think you could get, if you want the whole fight thing, then just be willing to get into the game and do the whole thing. If not, then just, don't use that classification.
Dabble into
Right.
some combat jiu-jitsu. That's like the
Yeah.
median. Yeah, get smacked in the face or grapple.
Correct. But it's
Technically,
it's a smaller pool of
yeah.
people. Like, it really does get cut down. So, like, when those guys try to classify themselves as the same, like, even just that example, you got the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy and then like the combative Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. Those two guys aren't the same, right? Like, surely the combative guy would get upset with this other guy saying he's the same as him. Like, no, you're not. So then on the outside looking in, the guy who has done it all and explored that Muay Thai, which is the most brutal of
Dude,
arts.
the elbows
Uh,
are disgusting.
oh, devastating. Out of all the arts that I've trained, Muay Thai is the most brutal, hands down. You're absorbing and giving back harder. Boxing is a sweet science. I could evade. I could go to a boxing match and be unscathed if I do my thing right. You know what I mean? You can't do that in Thai. Both winner and loser both go to the hospital. Just the loser stays in longer. But both guys are getting banged up. It is not the same game. And you got to, that mental capacity, that person who's doing that is just a little bit different. That guy's willing to go further. He's got way more screws loose than a lot of these other arts.
What are your thoughts
And
on bare knuckle? Because that's an up and coming. That's like I see a lot of boxers, a lot of MMA fighters. They're segueing into bare knuckle, and initially, because I grew up fighting in the street, right? Initially, I'm like, so what? Like you fight, like you fight. What's the big deal? And then I started to realize after watching a lot of these, and six, seven dudes are breaking their hands. Everyone's getting brutally cut, and I was like, hold on. Like when I fought, I didn't even know how to fight in the street, let alone these people didn't really know how to. These people train for
mhm.
this moment. Your margin of error is so much smaller, right? Because your fist is a lot smaller than a boxing glove, so you can
Oh
fit into
yeah,
tighter spaces.
for
It's more
sure. I mean, I,
dense.
I felt that when I went from like boxing gloves to MMA gloves, I was like, wow, this is a big difference. I thought my guard and shield was tight, but it wasn't, not as tight as it needed to be. Then when you take the MMA gloves off and you go bare knuckle, you feel it again. And it definitely makes you sharper. But also, what you're feeling and realizing is like the risk and reward, right? Like, it's so much easier to lose, but it's also so much easier to win. And like, that's where they're kind of tapping more into like that Thai stuff, right? Because the Thai thing, same thing. Muay Thai is, you got a lot of ways to win, but you got a lot of ways to lose. Like, one bad exchange could just, that's it. So it's not necessarily the better fighter that wins all the time. It's the guy who has the most better exchanges, because one bad exchange, it could be catastrophic when we're talking about knees, elbows. If we're going into the lithaway stuff, you're talking about headbutts now, which are a whole nother animal. Um, so,
That's wild.
or the Burmese boxing and stuff where they were pretty much doing like the bare knuckle stuff. I mean, they had the rope over their hands, but it would work in the same way. And now I mean, it's like a cast. They're gonna hit you with that stuff, and they're not worried about their hand breaking, but you're gonna feel all of it. Um, and it does change the game. It's not the same as with gloves for sure. So I think the bare knuckle boxing is super interesting because of that, because there's just that line of one bad exchange could change the whole course of this fight. It's not so much who the better fighter is, and uh, that's a wild game, but
Dude,
it,
it's
it is
crazy.
very different,
It's
very different.
crazy. I like, and then none of them swing. Like in boxing, you come out, you kind of feel them out. You're working on your footwork. You're gauging distance. Every time I watch bare knuckle, they're just trying to take the other person's head off every single time. Like the swings
Yeah,
are like uh guy I know, Dustin Peg, just won the belt, but like watching those two, I forget the other guy's name, but the other guy's insane in bare knuckle. Like he big name in bare knuckle fighting, and I even apologize that I can't remember his name, but dude, watching them two go at it, I'm like, this is wild. And I grew up
yeah.
fighting in the street. Like this is a whole different thing. Those don't even go in the same stadium, let alone the same arena.
Yeah, see, when I was doing like all like the bare knuckle stuff or like fighting in the street and stuff like that, there wasn't the same caliber of guys, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what's interesting about it now is you got like, former professional boxers and stuff that are in there doing the bare knuckle stuff. So you got like stacked dudes that are actually in there banging bare knuckle. That's a complete game changer, right? Because like all the bare knuckle stuff when I was doing it wasn't against that caliber worth of dude. Like that is a different game to play with, but super interesting. I love it. I think that's gonna take off. I also love what John Wayne Parr did in one championship with Muay Thai with MMA gloves instead of boxing gloves, and that is a game changer too. And I thought that that was a brilliant way to kind of shed light on Muay Thai, and speed up that whole danger factor. You know?
Yeah. Let's make it more. Let's make it more dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So again, there's always that. And that was also part of my journey through the fight game too, is I always just wanted more. That's why the Muay Thai always had the special place in my heart, because it was where I felt I could do the most. Mixed martial arts, I mean, great, you do everything, and I love that too. But there was just times in mixed martial arts where I felt like, I could get a break, I could get a breather. In Thai, that doesn't exist. So just the push, the pace, the mentality, was different.
Yeah, your break is
But
getting kicked. That's your break.
yeah, so for like the mental fortitude aspect of it, I think is what I was drawn to the most with Thai. Like, and I felt that throughout fighting, and as the styles got a little bit crazier or the skill levels got higher, you do start to feel that. But I do think it was just always different when there was that much on the line in Thai, where it's like I could seriously get hurt here, and this could go really bad really quick. And that excited me. Like I love that challenge aspect of just being in that like toe to toe back and forth fight. Like the genuine feeling of a fight, I was drawn to. I loved it. I loved it, you know. And I had a lot of gym wars because of it too, but that's how everyone trained back then too. But it was something that I loved. And you look at the game now; it's changed a lot to where fighters are just they're doing more of like this, sparring that's based off of timing rather than banging and just tearing up the bodies and leaving your best fights in the gym. And I was like, that's genius. I wish I would have done that back then, but I didn't. I didn't because it just wasn't the way. And also, I was just so geared up for loving that feeling of a fight that there was a lot of gym wars back in my day,
You took
and
the
there were
fight
some
wherever
great
you could.
fighters who left their best days in the gym.
So you mentioned, so you build a lot of discipline, obviously, in fighting and training. And you mentioned being a private military contractor and law enforcement. Which one came
Mm.
first, and how did that come to be?
So the contracting thing came first, right? So that was an interesting path for me too, because again, I was mixing everything in the sense of the mixed martial arts stuff, and this is when mixed martial arts was still in its birth stages. So the idea of just mixing the empty hand disciplines was still a very new concept. Um, Now, from there, since I had that mixed martial arts background, career, and experience, um, my thing was, well, what's next? And I was like, well, weapons are going to be what's next, right? That's something that I don't really know, and that's a game changer. And I've had quite a few situations where that's been involved. So I was like, you know what? Let me learn that. So I was able to get involved in Filipino martial arts, and again, very lucky for that. Just got to kind of meet great people and kind of be in stacked rooms. And I had Grandmaster Bram Frank from Modern Arnis. He was trained under Remy Prisas. He took me under his wing and just kind of really helped me out a lot. Grand Tuan Leo Gahe Jr., who's like the sole heir to the throne of Pakiti Turshakali, he kind of took me under his wing, and I got to kind of work with him and learn all that and put all these things together. And now I was like this guy who was like mixing the weapons with the mixed martial arts, and mixed martial arts itself was a very new concept. So the idea of mixing all these things together was also very, very new. Um, and then I ended up having a private military contracting guy reach out to me, and he was like, "Hey, would you be able to like come in and show our operators like the behind enemy line stuff, minimal resources, like if they had to use, the tools, the melee weapons, the edge weapons, and then some of the hand to hand stuff, how you're mixing it together, would you be able to kind of show them that?" I was like, yeah, sure, great, perfect. So I got in there, I got to mix it up with these guys, right? So now I'm in a teaching capacity, teaching them just exactly how to do that, how to run behind enemy lines, minimal resources. Because you get a knife anywhere in the world, right? Guns are hard to move, right? And these guys, they go into places that they're not supposed to be, doing things they're not supposed to do. Uh, they're not all sanctioned operations. So to just land somewhere, grab a knife, be able to have that on you, and know how to use that is just very feasible. So they just needed somebody like myself to come in and teach that side of the house. So I did. And then this was great because I got to mix it up with operators from all over the world. Like you name a specialized unit, I got to work with these guys. And it was great for me because as much as I was teaching, I was learning. I was picking their brains about everything I didn't know and then trying to give them everything I did know. And that was great. And then, they were like, hey, why don't you get into this work yourself? And I was like, dude, I would love to. But, in order to be a part of that life, you have to come from a formal military branch, and I wasn't former military. I was fighting. These guys were former military guys, so I was like, I would love to, but I can't because that's the rules of the company, right? Like they're taking from guys that are from branches, and they're like, well, that doesn't make sense because you're here teaching us. And I was like, I agree with you, but I don't make the rules, bud. So they all got together and they actually went to the company and was like, hey, dude, we would love to like operate with this guy, and we think he'll be a great like asset to the company and the teams and whatnot. Um, can we bring him on? And then the company was like, well, if he goes through selection and passes selection like everyone else, then we're signing. So then I had to go through their selection process, and that was brutal and long.
So you did a
And
selection process without ever even going through
mm,
like basic
yeah,
training, AIT, the things that kind of build you, but you kind of had that discipline building with the fighting. So it's
exactly.
it's
So it
it's
was my
interesting.
fight game that helped me for that, right? Like being in long camps, beating the shit out of myself, uh, and just doing everything like, cut in weight, running for miles in the middle of the night, spitting in a cup, just getting your ass kicked. Like that built me for everything that they threw at me. So even though I didn't come from that life, to go through a like boot camp per se was to me, I looked at it like a fight camp. I was like, oh, I've had camps that were harder than this. So I just was able to adapt to it quite well. But that was a long selection process because it was all privatized, private military. So you're going way beyond like just the boot camp stuff because they need you to have all these different skill sets. So they're sending you to all these different schools, bringing in all these other subject matter experts to learn all these different things. And it was a very long, crazy process. But I loved it. I mean, I got
Of
to
course you
do
did.
some
It's
wild
hard.
stuff.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so that was super exciting to me, and then after that, I got attached to a team and, started doing a lot of the work myself. Most of it was executive protection, at that time, right? So this was like, the sister company of, Blackwater, so, like, we're during that time, like, I missed, like, the big wave back in '05. It was on the tailer end of that, but it was a sister company of them, and, most of the work at the time was convoy escorts, site fortification, executive protection, and we're all kind of tasked with different regions. And then I was kind of in and out of South America. I did most of my work in Panama. Just again taking in high
Executive
profile
protection.
executives.
Yeah.
Yeah, just making sure these guys don't get snatched up by cartels and whatnot. Uh, and that was the bulk of the work at the time, which was great. I mean, that's a whole other avenue of my company now that I get to work with from my experience there of doing that with them. And it was super interesting. I really did enjoy that work. It's just that work, when it's good, it's great. But you have your dry spells, and it's like, well, what do I do in the meantime? And as that work started to slow down, that's when I decided to open up the direct action training and start teaching, because I was a teacher first, and then like when I was operating, it was great. But when you're in between, contracts and gigs, it's like, well, what do I do now? So I was like, well, let me kind of teach in the meantime until that next big one comes along. And I opened up the company, started teaching. Most of the guys I was training at that time, they were either law enforcement or military, but a lot of law enforcement during that time. So I was training with these guys, and they were like, hey, dude, you should do this law enforcement thing, right? Like your resume is stacked for it, right? You got the fight thing, the teaching thing, the private military contracting thing. They're like, dude, it makes sense. Like in the meantime, you could be doing that instead of teaching and just, get a pension, the benefits, all this stuff. So they were selling me. And I was like, nah, dude, I don't want to be a cop. What are you talking about? And I grew up in fight gyms. I was like gang banging with dudes and stuff and fighting chapter leaders and for shits and giggles in the gym. I was like, dude, I can't be a cop. You know what I mean? Um, but they kept pushing it, and I was like, work wasn't coming. It was a bit of a dry spell, and I was like, you know what? I got to do something. Let me give this thing a shot. So I went through the process. Ended up getting picked up by the Broward Sheriff's Office, and then quickly rose through the ranks there. Became their lead defensive tactics instructor. I got to rewrite the FDLE curriculum for defensive tactics, or be a part of it, the rewrite of it, and get a lot of like updated MMA type stuff in there, which was great. And that was one of the big things that I wanted to do with my time in law enforcement. And I got to check that box quite early. Just I had a lot of good guys that were well connected looking out for me. Mel Murphy being one of them. Love that guy to death. He took me under his wing, and he was like, hey, like when I leave this place, I want you to be the guy type thing. And he just kind of really laid that path for me, allowed me to help with that rewriting of the curriculum, and get all that good stuff in there. And then I was the defensive tactics instructor that was now certifying all the people in the southern region of Florida, right? So I was the lead defensive tactics instructor of Broward Sheriff's Office. I still am. But since we're an institute, we can certify people outside of our agency too, because it's all under FDLE. So since we rewrote the FDLE curriculum, or were part of it, and we were located in the South, they told us to just go and certify all the new curriculum to the DT instructors. So we went from Indian River all the way down to the Keys, and just started to certify all the DT instructors under the new curriculum, just to get everybody up to speed and start kind of pushing out that information. So to be a part of that was great, and that was one of my biggest things that I wanted to do in law enforcement. And I got to say, the agency's been great with me. They really let me kind of revamp training, how it's being dished out, what's being taught, and really kind of go hard with these guys. And being able to be in a spot where I could change all the stuff that I wanted to change is incredible for me. And then, my door kicking days weren't completely out of my system when I was doing all that. So I hopped on their SWAT team and became a sniper within their SWAT team, and then SWAT team training cadre for a little bit. Um,
How many
and then I
lives have
was,
you lived, bro?
mhm.
How many lives have you lived?
Yeah, I don't sleep much. I'm a workaholic for sure, but I love what I do. So I'm consumed by it.
There's so
But
many
I'll tell
things
you,
I can like talk about, and it's just we could be here for 6 hours easily. Um, going to private military contracting to, you got there by teaching,
mhm,
then law enforcement. obviously this is what applies to me most in training, right? Because training is something, it's like bittersweet, right? Like I love training, and then I go to trainings and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why is this still being taught? Right? Like so Pennsylvania a couple years ago finally mandated controlled tactics. We're like, wow. We finally, and our department's always been ahead of the curve. We train all the time. Like they're big on training. We started a combat club that now is tactics or defensive tactics club, because combat club was a little too scary. So we just changed the name to grappling club or whatever it is now. But it's the same thing. So we've always done this, right? And then MOPEC, whatever we decide to call it, Pennsylvania cops like to call it different things. They come out like mandated training for defensive tactics, or control tactics is what they call it. Everyone who trains is like, wow, finally. And they're like 4 hours a year, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like beggars can't be choosers. Like 4 hours a year. I guess we can work with that. Like we're starting to think about like how we can pack 4 hours, and then they're like, first mandated lesson, handcuffing. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then they gave us these opportunities that instead of going to like the academies to train, you can have defensive control tactics instructors from departments, right? But then you had to go through a certified, I guess, discipline, right? Like GST, EFC is one now, but the only one available at this time was what was it? The pressure point stuff and all that. The dude's like everywhere. That was the only one available at this time. So we sent a few officers, one being myself, to this, and literally the first 30 seconds of the instructor, who was 80 years old, and anyone in Pennsylvania knows exactly who I'm talking about, so I'm not going to say his name out of respect, but the dude's like 80, still teaching at this time. We get there. First thing he says, he's like, if you wanna charge to teach this, he's like, I personally don't get out of bed for anything less than $2,000. And I'm like, does he know we're like cops in service training, and like we're gonna be training like our department, and we can't charge our department? I'm like, whatever.
Wow.
I'm like, whatever. The whole class is just pressure points, right? And it's the funny thing is, like, half the pressure, like especially females, for some reason, females and pressure points don't go together, right? Like we're trying to do pressure points on these females, and they're just standing there. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really bother me. And I'm like, yeah, this is very silly, but it's something we need so that we can say we're certified in the state of Pennsylvania to teach control tactics. I'm not going to use any of these tactics, but this is the hoop I have to jump through. Long story short, we're in the gym or whatever, and he does the brachial stun on me. He tries to do it on me, and I'm just like, mind you, I've fought and all this. So I'm like, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks. Like, I guess it hurts, but like, I was like, if you do that to someone in the street, you're just gonna piss them off. Like, you're not gonna do anything but piss them off, and now the force has been escalated. And then he's like, oh, you can try this, and he stomps on my foot, and I'm like frustrated. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? All that to say, the training I was being sent to, I'm like, this is wild. But it got me through the door, right? Then GST comes out, gets accepted into the Pennsylvania curriculum. I go to GST. You know, I met Bernardo. Bernardo's a phenomenal dude. Then I went through EFC. I even went through Krav Maga. I went through everything, right? Because I want to see, like, what can I tailor? What can I use? And then, you ever heard of ShivWorks? Craig Douglas? Yeah. Went through his courses, and, man, that's probably one of the toughest courses I've been through. When I tell you, it was 4 days, 12-hour days of just, you know, drills and learning. And then at the end of every day, we just beat the shit out of each other. Like, he calls it the murder wall. He puts you in a scenario, and it's like Sims, full go, like, apply everything you learned today, which is the first time I've been through countless of classes at this point of different organizations, different trainings, just trying to tailor like what can I digest, what can I apply that I can bring back to the department so that we can use. It's the first time we get put in a situation where it's like, all right, like this is the closest thing to a real life scenario you're gonna get. And it was, dude. We had a couple Israeli special forces guys in there. We couldn't use their pictures. They were all all had the same name, which I think was a lie at this point. Like
Mm.
this is the name they gave us. But these dudes were, dude, they're pistol whipping you in your face. You have the helmets, but they're pistol whipping you in your face. This is the first time I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die in training. But
Yeah, the
it
the pressure
opened
testing
something.
aspect
Yes.
is good, and that needs to happen, right? And pressure testing is something that it's been around forever. Anyone who's done real fighting understands that, right? And I think like if we pull from that, then the answers are there, um, but we don't tend to pull from that, right? And it's like he's not really doing anything special other than pulling from the fight game and introducing it into a world where it's not normally introduced, right? Um, so the answers are all the same. And the answers have been around since the beginning of time. It's just nobody's really working that because you normally don't get real fighters in this community. You get that, pressure point guy who's going to try to do that, or the old Shotokan karate guy who taught 70 years ago with an outdated curriculum when nobody knew how to fight. But if you kind of go back to real fighting and how real fighters did it, the answers are clear. Like that training methodology you're going to pick up through the fight game. Like I couldn't go into a fight unless I sparred. Why? Sparring was the closest to reality of what I would do in the fight game. So you could hit mitts all you want. You could hit the bag all you want. Unless you're sparring and banging, you don't really know what you're going to do or how you're going to react or what's going to work, what's not going to work. So that was like the pressure testing. And through the fight camps, you realize sparring days and the sparring element of training was the most important. And then you would take from that sparring and figure out what your deficiencies were and then go drill those on a bag, go drill those on some mitts, go drill those with other people. So when you come back to sparring, you could now work on that, and then you'll find new deficiencies, and you're like, oh, I got to work on these now. But the pressure testing through sparring was the answer, and that just never made it over to worlds outside of fighting. But as soon as you do, you'll get these answers, right? So like the sparring of the gun world is going to be that simunition force on force training, right? And I said that from early on. I was like, that force on force simunition training is the sparring of the gun world. That's when you're going to learn the most of what you would really do, where you're deficient, to where it's not just this hypothetical. You do your drills on a live range for like your marksmanship and your fundamentals and your weapon handling and proficiency, etc. However, that's not really telling the story. Go do some force on force sim stuff, and you're going to have a much better idea as to what you're going to do. That's the sparring aspect of the gun world. So, any courses, any drills that are tapping into that side of it have it more figured out, but they're really not doing anything other than the blueprint from the fight game.
That's a good point. Yeah. Stress inoculation, testing
Mhm.
what you learned. Funny story, I do a lot of like training with the cadets. When we're doing room clearing, right? They have their little blue guns. We
Mhm.
show them room clearing after a week of showing them room clearing 8 hours a day. They start to look all right, right? Boom, boom, boom. They're going in. They're strong wall and going in. I'm like, oh wow. And then we tell them, we don't because academies now are a little different, but we tell them, hey, there might be someone who shoots back at you. So make sure you dial in on the principles we've been telling you. Everything goes out the window.
100%.
We were just doing all good all week, but because we've added the stress of maybe someone will be shooting back at you. They no
Yeah.
longer take their walls. They're bumping things. They forget, if one goes in, the other one goes the other way. But now they go the same side. It's crazy what adding a little bit of stress does to someone who's learning something new.
And that's why I say the answers are always going to be found in a fight game, right? We go back to the fight game, then we can deal with that, right? Like if you train, let's use boxing. You train boxing, but you never get hit in the face. You just do mitts. You just you hit, bags, shadow box, and you're just doing that, right? You could build the mechanics and the technique or whatever, and you could look, decent in your proficiency of how to actually deliver this stuff. But the application of it, you never worked. So what's going to happen now is when someone's in front of you, all you could think about is getting punched in the face. And since you haven't felt it, the anxiety of it is worse than it itself, but you don't know that. That's all you could think about. That's why back in the day, how they would teach you was beat the shit out of you first before ever teaching you a skill set, just to make sure you're comfortable and understand that. Once you get over that, you can now start learning. But you never start learning until you do that. And we've just gone to this softer, kinder, gentler approach where we've always protected people from that, but we're really not protecting them. And if we just go back to those original days of just being hard on them out the gate, get that out of the way, then now we could start learning. But they're not going to do it until they actually feel it. And I always say, like, as great as an instructor I am, pain is a better instructor than I will ever be, right? Because it's a fast track, right? I could tell you not to touch that hot stove 28 times until I'm blue in the face. Until you touch it and burn your hand, you're not going to learn. You do that one time, you learn. I never have to give that lesson again for the rest of our lives. Now we could start learning, right? So I'm big on that, and I'm very rough with my students too. I mean, other people have told me that I'm a little bit too rough with my students and stuff, but I was like, yeah, I'll put my guys against your guys any day of the week. It's worth it because I'm not coddling them. I'm not protecting them. I'm not giving them any false things. If they get something, they get it. If they earn it, they earn it. But they're feeling it. They're knowing it. A lot of the lessons are delivered with pain because pain is that great teacher. Pain's going to do things that I'm just not going to be able to do verbally. They're not going to listen to me. They got to feel it. They got to know firsthand. And there's ways of doing that where you're still safe and you could make sure they don't get injured. But at the same time, if we're not pressure testing stuff, or if I'm not going hard on them and giving them real opportunities to really apply this stuff, then we're not really working, you know? So I'm still a big believer of, like, just the way that I got to where I was through like rough fight camps. So all my training is tailored towards that. Like right now, I just built a 2-day in service um, for our agency, and it is rough. The agency, they supported us on it, but there was some pushback, and they were really worried about people getting hurt, and they're like, this is a little much. I think it's gonna be too physical. Da da da.
That's
And I'm
my
like, no,
question.
but because it's winnable. As long as you give them winnables, it's fine. Like, I'm not just going to beat the hell out of them. I'm going to teach them, and then I'm going to pressure test them in a winnable scenario to where they could see where they could win, but they're also going to see where they're deficient. But there's value in that. And if we deliver it the right way, they're going to see that. And so far, we've got maybe 14 classes that we put through. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Like, these people are beat to shit. There's been blood every class. There's been some sort of minor little injury every class, but um, just bumps and bruises, nothing crazy. We had one real injury where chick got her knee torn. That was a real injury, but it was just a bad
Eh,
fall. So one
it
of those
happened to
things is
me.
going to
That's
happen.
exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, it's going to
Bad
happen,
fall.
right?
It happens.
We're not baking cakes here, right? But if anything, I'd rather it happen under our supervision in a gym than out there on the road with somebody trying to really kill her. You know what I mean? And then now we could get better, right? And the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, though. People actually love this, right? Mainly because they feel like they're learning, and they're actually learning because we're teaching them the stuff, and then we're pressure testing the stuff in a winnable scenario. And I think if it's delivered like that, it's way more palatable, right? But it just has to be delivered like that. But if we take out that pressure test part, they don't know if they really can or cannot because they've never been pressure tested.
That's my question to you, especially with law enforcement, right? Training contractors is different than in a training camp. Um, Training cops is its own feat, right?
Yes.
One, we're dealing with a group of people who don't even want to train, which blows my mind. Some of them don't want to train, right? They're either forced to be in this class, they're told
Mhm.
to be in this class, or there's some sort of incentive, right? Like comp time or overtime pay, right? They're, I guess I'll go, right? So it's very few that I teach a class and they're like just wired up to be there, right? When I have that, I'm elated. I'm like, oh man, 2 people want to be here. That's great. Like that's
Yeah.
good numbers for me. But the majority of the time we're dealing with people who don't want to be there, right? And then now we're dealing with departments. staff shortages. Well, don't get hurt, don't get injured. Well, that looks too violent. Or we don't have enough people in classes because I can't afford to pay my guy to go there. And they're not going to go on their own time, because why would you learn something that can save your life that applies directly to your job on your own time if they're not paying you? I get it, right? Like, why would you do a life saving thing if you're not getting paid to do it? So that's sarcasm for the listeners, and you can't see my face.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with a lot of obstacles of entry for cops to train. And now you've developed something that is hard. It's different. Cops love change. They love when things change, right? So now you're dealing with something that's hard, something that's different, and it may check the ego. You are going to show people maybe you don't have it figured out. So now we're hitting cops where it hurts. Ego. How is your approach to training? Right, you rewrote the curriculum for most of South Florida. So what was your approach in one, being able to do that, and two, what is your approach to classes? How are you seeing officers come in, the attitude, the motivation, and the outcome of training?
So you're right. Training law enforcement is probably the most difficult batch of people you're going to train. And again, I've trained kids with special needs, and law enforcement's way harder to train than them, right? Because of everything that you're saying. They don't want to be there. They're disgruntled. They're like, you're always going to hear this is the way we've always done it. Um, so you're dealing with all of that stuff, and they're just going to completely have blinders and earmuffs on until you win them over, right? And there's just a few different ways to do that. One of the ways that I've found to do it is one, humor, right? That's a great way to kind of just break down some of those barriers. Um, so in classes, I'll just try to use humor, and with law enforcement, it's often dark, crazy humor, and but I'm great at that. So I'll use that as a way to kind of break down that, and then they get that buy. And if they like me personally, then they're willing to kind of listen to me for me, not so much me as the instructor, but me as Stephen Chan. And then now I could start to kind of win them over. So that has helped. The other part too is just the credibility, right? Like, put up or shut up, right? Don't tell me, show me is always one of my rules. So, hey, look, you got an answer. You don't think this is going to work, or you think that's a better way. Come show me and let's see. And again, I'm extremely hard on them. A couple years ago, we had an in service that was just like a gauntlet, and we beat the hell out of everybody. And it was a wake up call of an in service where they realized just how stacked this training division is and just what we can do and are willing to do to them. And now we don't have to do that kind of training again. All we got to do is bring it up. Right, and let me, "You want that in service again? Oh, no. Okay, you gonna listen now? Oh, good." Right? So it served its purpose, and it was really just that kind of, kicking the nuts of a wake-up call, but all the guys that thought they knew what they were doing or thought they could get away with certain things, it was a time to show it, and they realized that they couldn't. But then after that, the people were more open to what it is that we were saying and what it is that we're gonna do, because we weren't just speaking about it as a theory-based, uh persona. It was put up or shut up. Hey, let me show you how it's done. And if you think it's not going to work, then just come show me that it's not going to work, and we're do the dance. And it's happened quite a few times. I've pulled people up, and we've got into it, and then they quickly learn, realize, and see. And after that, you got the buy-in from everyone else, and you're good to go. And you know how it is in the agency, right? That happens once, and the whole agency is going to hear about it in like 48 hours. And then also it's like that game of telephone. So by the time they hear about it, it's you rough this guy up a little bit, but they're going to be like, yeah, no, he put him in a coma for 7 days. And,
Yeah.
next thing you know, people are terrified to come to training. And that's kind of what we're dealing with now. But it's good because they're coming in worried and ready to listen and receive the message. And then when they see that we're actually teaching them and we're building them along, it helps bring some of that down, because now it's like, oh, okay, like they're not trying to hurt me. They really do care about me. They are trying to prep me up for success, but they also know that that pressure's coming. We will pressure test it. That hammer's coming. So let me make sure I pay attention. And I tell them straight up, I'll come in, pet peeve of mine. I'll have a guy do like a couple reps, and he's just standing around, and I'm like, "Oh, you good?"
You
He's
got it
like, "Yeah,
figured
yeah,
out?
no, yeah." He's like, "I got it." I was like, "Oh, you got it? Okay." I was like, "You did it twice, and you got it." I was like, "I dedicated 2 decades of my life to being a fighter, and I still don't think I have it figured out. But you did 2 reps, and you got it. You're a hell of a human being, bud. Way better than I could ever be in my life. This is impressive." I said, "I hope you do have it, because those 2 reps you're going to be betting your life on tomorrow when I pressure test you, and you better hope that those 2 reps served you well, because I'm coming at you, bud, because you said you got it." So, you know,
Note
after
taken.
that, yeah, after that, never had to tell that guy to stop again. I mean, if anything, I had to tell him, "Hey, dude, take a break, go get some water, right? You're sweating your ass off here. You haven't took a break for the next 6 hours." But it's good because they realize we're gonna get pressure tested. I need to know this. Like, wow, that's a reality check. If there's no fear of that, why is he gonna listen to me? He doesn't have to. But part of it too is getting the command to back you on something like that, and that's very difficult for most agencies. Luckily, I was able to convince the command to be like, "Hey, let me do what it is that I do. That just let me do what it is. I've been in the training space for pretty much my whole life, right? Like, just let me work this thing." And since we've been doing that, the feedback has been positive, as can be. They're getting emails every day of, "Wow, this training's incredible. I've been with AC 20 years, 30 years, never dealt with anything like this. Look, I could barely tie my shoes today and I'm sore, but it was the best training I ever could have had." And they're appreciative of it, because again, you take them on that journey, right? For them, it's scary. They've never had to be pressure tested. Now they have to be pressure tested, uh, but they don't want to feel like you're just kicking their ass and then sending them back on the road. When you do it in a way where you're actually teaching them, they could see you're passionate, you care about them, and then you give them a little bit of pressure to let them know, "Hey, look, this is where you're deficient, this is where you're good, but we're gonna grow together." Uh, they could get you could get buy-in with that. They could now start to believe in that, right? Like I always say, it's a lot like swimming, right? You don't know how to swim, the water is terrifying. It's scary. I don't want to go anywhere near it, right? Because it could kill me and I don't know how to deal with it, and that's scary. But once I learn how to at least doggy paddle, the water's not as scary anymore, right? I still respect it because I know it could kill me, but that same level of fear isn't there because I know I'm at least not going to die, right? And I said fighting's the same way. Most of these guys never been in a real fight in their life, um, and it's like, okay, what you're scared of is the unknown. So I got to kind of take you there in a controlled setting to where I could at least get you to doggy paddle, and then you realize, you know what, it's not that scary anymore. And now you'll get the few guys that are gonna be like, "You know what? I wanna do more than doggy paddle. Let me actually get some swim lessons and see if I could do this." I know I'm never gonna be Michael Phelps, but I'm willing to play in the water now. They're only gonna do that if they get over that first hurdle of not drowning. And, like, that's what you have to create as an instructor. And, yes, it is difficult to do, and law enforcement are the most difficult to do it with, but it can be done. And we're doing it right now. And, you know, I love what I've been able to do in the law enforcement space in a teaching capacity. And I've done a lot for the agency. I've done a lot for Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I've done a lot for the Southern region of Florida. But again, my mind's bigger than that, right? I want to push this all over the not only United States but internationally, right? I've been training in Romania. I've trained their law enforcement and special forces guys. Um, Recently I just got back from Brazil. I was training the Brazilian SWAT guys down there, and teaching them this stuff. And I love the international stuff. Like that's great for me to just see how police work's done over there, what training looks like over there, and then kind of share ideas and kind of grow together like that. But for me, I am that guy who just wants to do it bigger. And what we're building right now in the way training is being delivered in law enforcement, the way the pressure is being done, the way the techniques and tactics are being updated and getting good information out there is like my dream work, right? And yeah, look, I could do it through my private company, and I do, because I don't have to deal with any red tape. But then I could only help people that are willing to come to me. the people that need help the most are not the people that are willing to come to me. Those are those people in that room that don't want to be there. How can I help them? Like that's important to me, right? Like I think it's easy to run a company and train people that
Seek
want
you.
to train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's easy, right? Look, it's still rewarding, but that's easy. But when I could win a guy over who didn't want to be there and then he's done training and he's like asking about extra lessons and training and he's like, man, this was so great for me and I could really see myself doing this now. That's a win for me. And like most people write that guy off. I know a lot of people who train companies that refuse to train law enforcement in a law enforcement capacity. They're trained law enforcement people that come to them, like your weekend warriors and your guys that are about it. But my thing is, if you want to move the needle on this thing, then you got to kind of take that hard road. You got to deal with the red tape. You got to go through this side of the coin, which isn't as enjoyable. And yes, you got to deal with more stress, but I think it's more rewarding because of that.
Oh, for sure. How big? How big? You said international. You've heard of Seminar Stack?
Yeah. So I recently got in touch with them. I heard about them. I was on another podcast. He recommended me to them.
Who
So
was it? Who was it?
um,
Do you remember? Or the
yeah, it
podcast?
was Jujitsu Dummies. The
Oh,
Jujitsu Dummies podcast.
Milton.
Yeah, yeah. So
Uncle
so
Milty.
yeah. So Milton
Wait,
had me
you
on.
were on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, everything's coming together for me now. Because I remember watching your episode, and I'm like, "Oh, this dude's fucking legit, dude.
Yeah.
This is crazy." This is wild. I didn't put two and two together.
Yes,
When
that
you
was
said Broward,
actually
I should
my.
have, I should have put that together.
Nah, no
'Cause I was
worries. It
gonna
was
ask you
my
if you know
first
Milton.
podcast. Yeah, no, that's how I know Milton. So, Danny Herrera, who's a
That's my
Miramar cop.
boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
solid dude. Love that dude. He came to my defensive tactics instructor class, the FDLE defensive tactics instructor
yeah,
class. I certified him as the a DT instructor, and we were chopping it up. And he's so like pro training. The guy's like super passionate about it and passionate about law enforcement and everything like this. So me and him hit it off, and I saw he was doing a bunch of podcasts, and he was also one of those guys that said I would be great for a podcast, and he does a bunch of them. And it's like, dude, let me put you in touch with somebody, and I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. You know what? Let's do it. And he put me in touch with Milton, and then
Oh, he put
I
you in
did
touch with
that.
Milton first.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah. And then
bet. I'm gonna have to call Danny real quick.
yeah, I
I'm gonna have
guess you were second.
Damn. And I know Danny's gonna watch this. And we got beef. He's like, hermano, no. We got beef. I'm about to
That's
grill
it.
it up and cook it too.
Yeah, but it was great. Like he's got to see a lot of what I did with that new curriculum and how I'm stacking it and pushing it together. And he was such a big advocate for it, and it's why we got along. And then on that other podcast, this is where the whole Patriot game started to kind of come up, and the whole seminar stack, and getting me involved with that. And that's something that I'm working on right now. I'm actually designing a knife because I'm big in the knife game. That's just a big thing for me, and
Let's
I
go.
don't think anybody is really kind of doing a really good job with that right now in our community. So I want to get in that space and just kind
Can
of
we
clear up a
talk? Can
few
we
things.
talk about it? I don't
Can
want
we
to
talk
give
about
up.
the knife?
Yeah, I don't want to give up your bread and butter, but what are, because right now people are like, if you don't train and you're a cop, you're gonna, why do we need a specific knife, right? Because right now we use our knives to cut our apples and our evidence bags, and it's usually the same knife. I personally use a knife. It's like a pick almost, but like, given your experience, your expertise, what are you looking to see? What deficiencies do you see with blades in law enforcement?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, and I think like again, you go to where the specialists are, right? Like when I wanted to learn boxing, I didn't go to a Taekwondo guy to learn boxing, right? That's not his art, right? It's mostly kicks. He doesn't do hands, right? So why would I go to him? He may have dabbled in boxing, but by no means am I going to go learn boxing from him, right? And you want to learn throw hands, you go to a boxer. They're best in the world at it. That's what they do, right? And I feel like that kind of got cleared up in the mixed martial arts world where people knew where to go for what it is that they wanted to seek and the specialists. However, in the weapons community or the knife community specifically, uh, people don't know where to go. They're like, again, big misconception, right? Like I've seen people like go do boxing with like a Navy SEAL, and I'm like, "Hey, I don't know shit about boxing. I've seen what these guys get taught for hands. They don't know shit about hands. Dude, you want to go to him for
Yeah.
building clearing? By all means, he's the best in the world. Go do it, right? But he shouldn't be your boxing coach. Like just no, but he's a SEAL. Yeah, but he don't know shit about boxing. So, like, let's call it for what it is. Go to the specialist, right? Like if you really want to, and I feel like the knife community is very much that right now, where you got guys that have dabbled in knife, they're teaching it, but they're by no means specialists. So you're getting a lot of bad or misinformation or outdated information that is kind of being put out there, right? And it's like, well, if I can't trace your knife lineage and you haven't worked with any real knife folk, then like I don't think you should be in a capacity where you're actually teaching knife to individuals yet, right? Like go continue your knife training with, credible, legitimate sources, and then you can go ahead and deliver it, right? Like when I'm teaching knife, you could trace back my knife lineage, and you're gonna get, Grand Tuan Leo Guy Jr., right? Sold heir to the throne, Paquita Tershakali, right? You're gonna get Grandmaster Bram Frank, first generation student under Remy Prisas, right? Like these guys are all stacked dudes, right? Like other first generation students from Leo Gahe are going to be Jared Wangi, Doug Marcaida, um, Dan Inosanto. Those guys are also all first generation students under Gahe, right? So like having that kind of lineage, like this is where you're really going to learn knife because these guys are the best in the world at it, right? They all came from that avenue. That's what they do. So if you don't have that kind of background, I don't think you really kind of scratch the surface on the knife game, and that's what's happening in the knife community right now, or knife in the tactical community. So a lot of people just don't know what they're looking at, right? So they just get thrust happy. They're like, just get the thing, just thrust. I'm like, well, what are we doing here? There's been guys that have been prison shanked with thrust 48 times, knocked the dude out, and then made it to chow. You're not doing anything just by puncturing skin. Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole thrust happy knife thing is crazy to me because knives are meant to be felt, not seen. And when you do stab somebody, they don't see the knife. They think it's a punch. They can't connect the fact that a knife has been in their body yet. They feel the impact of the fist hitting the body, and that's what they're connecting. Until they see the blade, there's no recognition of them actually being cut. So knives are actually going to be better utilized in a slashing capacity more so than a thrusting capacity. But a lot of people are teaching the thrust happy stuff, and it's like, well, you're missing the mark, especially if you're thrusting with like a 1 inch blade. Unless you're puncturing vital organs that are going to sit much deeper in the body than that, you're just doing tissue damage. You're not going to stop anybody. That guy's going to knock you out, kill you, take your gun, run off, and be fine. If you did puncture an organ, he's still going to kill you, run off, and 40 minutes later die in a Motel 6. But you didn't do anything to protect yourself with that knife engagement right now, unless you're severing major arteries from their source, brachial, carotid, femoral, etc. You're not really doing much at all. So knives have to be specific for that. Law enforcement mess up because again they use their utility knife for evidence, tape, cheesecake, etc. Um, and then
I
they
love cheesecake,
expect to
brother.
use that in an entanglement, right? Like now I'm going to use that weak side hand, weak side of my body, get it deep in my pocket underneath my mags on my gun belt, get it out, open it up, and then feed it to this guy all while he's in my face. No, it's unrealistic. So having a very specific blade for weapon retention and or being able to use in that capacity, it has to be a very specific blade. I'll tell you right away, just you don't want a folder, you want a fixed blade. Also, you want to run it on the center part of your body so you could one get to it with both hands, two retain it with the same weapon retention tactics that you normally work. If I separate the two, I have to choose retain this one or that one. I can't retain both at the same time. That's no good to me. So these are things that you have to start thinking about, right? Then also, I want enough blade length to where I could actually have enough draw time to either cut the biomechanical cutting for connective tissue, right? The big pulley system on our bodies, or be able to sever those major arteries, right? But if my blade isn't long enough to do that, then I'm not really scratching the surface.
No pun intended.
Also, yeah, also, I'm not a fan of the whole double-sided blade stuff because when you are in entanglements, right? So just here's an example. Um, my thumb being on the back of this blade helps me index this blade, meaning when flesh comes this way, I know where that flesh is and can ensure that I'm going to get onto that flesh exactly where I need to get onto it. If I can't index with my thumb and I just wrap my thumb like this, it may rotate in my hand a little bit. And as I think I'm getting on with my edge, I'm not. I'm getting on with the flat part of my blade.
That's
So I
something
can't
I never thought
control.
about.
Most people haven't,
Because
but
I
anybody
I
in the
I
knife world
index,
will.
but that's because I'm always told to index, right? Whether it's a rifle or pistol. So like, but knowing why you do something is very important. And I'll admit, with a knife, I never really understood why indexing is so important. I was like, it's good pressure, it's good control, but it's also the mobility of the blade.
Yes,
Knowing
because if I
knowing you're
get
on the
on the
good
flat
side.
part, I will strip the blade out of my hands. How you do like knife stripping and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I have to make sure that I'm getting on edge first. The only way to do that is this. So if I did have an edge here where people put edges there, I can't index my blade anymore. So that edge is no good to me. I want to be able to index that. If I'm indexing with a blade down, it's my knuckles that are going to be indexing, right? But I need to make sure that I can have that. So if my grip on my knife, my handle on my knife doesn't cater to that, that's no good. Also, I don't want edges up here because there's going to be times in entanglements where I'm going to want to reinforce that cut and I want to put a hand there to get that extra pressure. And if this has an edge on it, I'm not going to be able to do that. So it should be blade towards enemy always. I don't need a blade towards me, right? Even if it's blade down, the whole idea of like, well, I want to hook in here, this isn't going to cut anybody. I can't cut with this, right? This is just to grip and move that arm so I could feed blade to where I need to feed it. I don't need an edge there to control that person. I would actually rather have jimping on my knife there to be able to grip into clothing, material, flesh when it's sweaty rather than an edge so I could control, stir, move that arm and then feed the blade. That's going to be much better to me than having an edge there because now I lose that ability to kind of reinforce, right? And like we have to understand cutting. Cutting isn't about pressure. So I could do this all day and I'm not going to cut because in order to get a cut, we need pressure and then draw time. The longer my blade could spend on that body is my ultimate draw time. So resistance is a part of that equation. Blade length is the other part of that equation. How much resistance do I have, and how long can I keep that blade on that flesh while running that resistance to open them up? If I just have pressure, you won't be able to cut them. If I have draw time, no pressure, I'm not going to open them up. I need draw time and resistance in order to get the cut that I'm looking for that is going to do anything um, to shut the body down, whether that's biomechanical cutting, so cutting connective tissue and joints to stop mobility, or cutting major arteries to get that fire hose going and start that rapid hemorrhaging. But if I'm not using a knife designed for those specific tasks, that I'm missing the mark. And the problem is, most knife designs are made by knife designers, not knife applicators, which has always been a pet peeve of me for me. That's why I've decided to make my own knife, right? Like right now, I'm in the process. This is the trainer prototype for my knife because I
I was
said,
hoping, or you have tough skin.
yes, training prototype. So I make my trainers look like live blades. Reason being is when we train with this, perception's reality. You're going to treat it like a live blade because you don't know any different. Plus, it's metal. It's not forgiving. It doesn't have an edge on it. But when we train with it, you're going to realize your mistakes, right? Training with these is huge in like the Filipino martial arts world. So they won't train with like the big rubber knives that are like brightly colored and whatnot because you're going to treat that like a trainer. You're not going to treat it like a live blade. It doesn't look like a live blade. Perception's reality. This you will treat like a live blade. So the day that I change this out for a live blade, your body's not going to know any different. You're going to treat it the same. Whatever drills we've been doing for weeks, months, years, etc., you will now do those same drills with this live blade, and your body's not going to know any different. And there's magic to that. And like part of like the graduation, or I think when you get to certain levels in Filipino martial arts, they start with the training blades that are doled out, and then you're moved to one that has a bit of an edge on it, and then you're moved to fully blown sharp blades. And there's been plenty of videos of me on online and whatnot of me doing these demonstrations in my knife seminars where I'll have someone come at me with a live blade and I'll defend it with the same stuff that I've been showing them all day in that seminar. And it just it's funny because you always see them get super nervous. They're super sweaty.
Yeah.
They're freaking out. I'm like totally fine. And they're like, "Wait, how are you fine? Like I'm cutting you. You should be nervous. How are you fine right now?" I was like, "Because perception is reality, right? Like if I do the same thing that I've done here, then same thing, then we know it's going to work, right? Like it's so you learn to deal with that, and that's part of again that stress inoculation, right? If I'm stressed out the day that a live blade comes at me, there's a problem with my training. What was I training for? My training should match reality. If it doesn't match reality and I have to freak out the one day that it happens for real, there was a problem with my training the whole time because it didn't match reality and it was never pressure tested to the point where my training had any validity to it. All my students, I could take out a training blade, switch that out for a line blade, conduct the same training session, nothing changes. So the day someone comes at them with a real blade, oh, okay, what is it? Tuesday? I've done this before. No big deal, right? Easy day.
I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com. Extreme, but it hits the point. Yeah, if you're training and then the real thing happens and you're like, man, now this is for real. What were you doing?
Exactly.
That's with everything, with fighting, with a presentation, right? Because a lot of people who listen, some are cops, some train. A lot of people are, they have careers and corporate jobs. But like, if you're preparing for a presentation or a speech, and then the day comes and you're nervous, or like you have this high stress, you weren't preparing correctly, right? Like a speech, go tell it in front of 10 people, strangers. There's no more.
Yes.
It can't get any more awkward than a group of people who know you're going to give this speech and are there for it. It can't get more awkward than you just telling it in front of 10 random people, right? That's ultimate stress inoculation. So now tomorrow, when you're in this meeting and people are expecting this, you're going to be fine because you're like, that's what they're there for. This is what you're here for. Like that's
Exactly.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So again, it's just training methodology, right? Like all my training will come back to my early days in fighting, right? I knew what worked, I knew what needed to be done, I knew how to get as close to reality as possible. And I kept that training when I carried it over into the tactical world. And I find that most people in the tactical world haven't because they haven't fought. If you came from the fight world, you would know what I'm talking about. It's the same thing. It's easy to connect the dots. Where you see the lack of this in the tactical community is a lot of times the guys are not coming from being real fighters or real applicators. So you have all this theory based stuff rather than reality based stuff. Where I get the difference is I'm coming from reality based because I'm coming from the fight game. I'm just reverse engineering everything that worked as a fighter into the world of tactics, right? Where I realize, okay, force on force sim stuff is the sparring of the gun world. Let me work that. Okay, we could do live blade training. If I make my trainers look like a live blade, then I switch them out one day. No one knows the difference. If we can follow these patterns, we can get close to the reality of training and not start going down a path where we're doing more of the theory based stuff than the reality based stuff. And that's where, again, I'm like that off the wall guy in the community for that. But it's coming from a spot of that, right? Where it's like proofs in the pudding. And it works. And I think this is where, again, if we come back to that fight background, right, that original conversation that we had, it all stems from that. I think everybody needs to go through that at some point in their life. The lessons you're going to get from that will carry over into everything else, right? Like the day something gets hard, like even that big meeting that you're preparing for with that speech and whatnot, right? If you're sparring Muay Thai 2-3 times a week and you're used to getting knees and elbows in your face, like I could care less about this speech, right? How bad is it gonna go, right? And it's still not gonna be as bad as my Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it it helps you deal with bigger problems and handle more stress because you're ultimately training your body to deal with stress. Like part of why my business has done good in the entrepreneurship life that I'm kind of like tapping into now with the company is it's your ability to handle stress, right? Like you're going to get doors closed on your face all the time. Contracts are going to come and go. You're going to be dealing with like red tape and policies and all sorts of stuff. And you got guys that work for you that you're always trying to make sure are getting fed and you're taking care of them. And you're trying to figure out life, and the stresses that come with that are like huge. And I don't think I would be able to deal with that well if it wasn't for the fight background. Right? Like that fight background is always what has reigned true. Anytime I've got involved in an incident, I was always able to go back and be like, oh, my training was way harder than this, you know? And it helped me. It helped me tremendously deal with things that I didn't even think I was training for, but turns out that I was.
It's that constantly putting yourself in the fire and the stress inoculation. The more you deal with things, the better equipped you are at dealing with them. Right?
Correct. And then think about the mental fortitude of the guy who puts himself there, right?
Yes,
Like if
I'm
people put
willingly.
you through hard shit, that's one thing. If you're the crazy animal who's constantly putting yourself through hard shit and then you come out and you only want to go harder, like the day someone tries to oppose their will on you and put you in a hard spot, you're like, really? You're going to do this? I do this to myself for
I've
fun, guy.
chosen
Like,
to do worse to myself.
yeah, you got no chance.
That's
You got
yeah.
no chance.
What's the saying? Life will be hard. You can choose to do it now and be ready for it later, or you can not choose to do it now and not be ready for it. Right? So like
Yeah.
hard is going to happen. You could choose to do more hard
Mhm.
things, or you can have no choice and it happen to you anyway and you're not equipped to deal with it.
Correct. Yeah, I
But
tell people all the time. It's like the same with like the fight game. Like you don't get to decide. You can be like the nicest human being on the planet, right? And like if you don't want to get into a fight, you could try to stay away from it as much as you want. It doesn't matter. The day you get somebody who wants to pound your face in, you better know it then because you don't get a say, right? Your only say is how you respond to it. It's not whether or not it happens. Because if I want to pound your face in and I want to make that happen, you don't get a say whether or not that's going to happen. You get a say of how the outcome is going to be, but you only get that say based on previous training. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the lowest level of your training. So that's what's going to dictate any kind of real power. If you want power over decisions and people opposing their will on you, then you got to take those steps way in advance, right? But we have to look at these things not so much can I stop them from happening, because you can't. People have free will. You can't stop anything from happening. But I can choose how the outcome is going to be, right? Based on probabilities, right? I'm never going to get 100% because there's no 100% training or answer to anything. But I'm going to try to get that percentage as high as I can on my side. And that I have control over, that I can do. And if people focus like that, I think they would be more open to the idea of training. But you got two sides of the coin. You got most of the time people running around thinking, well, that would never happen to me. Or the people that are like, well, if it did happen to me, then I'll rise to the occasion. I'll deal with it. I watched YouTube once or twice. You know what I mean?
I'll just
But
black out.
yeah,
My
there's
favorite.
when I get mad though, that guy, right? Hilarious. I was like, when have you ever done anything better mad? Right? Like, go ahead and explain that to me. I don't know where your data is coming from, bud, but like, when have you just got mad and immediately done better? Right? Like, you ever been like typing on a computer and got pissed? Did you magically just
No,
no? You didn't start typing
from
better. You threw the damn keyboard. You typed less. You were hitting the wrong buttons all the time. Like, you don't just get mad and start doing anything better. So why do you think when it comes to the fight game that applies? I could just be mad and just immediately be Conor McGregor. Like,
yeah.
where is the data to support that? That's crazy to me. So it's a really crazy off the wall thought.
My response is always, so you're going to be out of control, out of mind in this, and then the other person is going to be completely in control, completely in his mind, and comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, look at
You're
train
supposed
fighters,
to.
right? Even guys who have skill, when they get mad, they fight worse. right?
Yes.
Their corner is telling them, "Hey, calm down, guy. Get your shit together, right? And focus on what it is that we need to do." So if we know that all the data is showing that nobody does better when they're mad, how is your answer still? But when I get mad, though, I'm gonna be great.
That's all the shit talking and fighting, right? Like a lot of it
Mm.
is to mess up someone's OODA loop, right? Like you're trying to get them out of their game so they're not focused on what's going on. They're getting angry and upset, and then that's where mistakes happen. That's where they start dropping that hand or whatever. Like you're trying to get them stirred up. That's a
Yeah, well,
that's
that's
a
that's like fight game stuff. Like if we're we're promoting a fight, I'm trying to get in your head, and we're doing that game. You know, that is more tactics, right? Like the Floyd
yeah.
Mayweather's of the world, right? Like people give him a hard time, but I was like, no, it's tactics, dude. This guy was a genius, right? He played the game really well, right? I'm not a biggest fan of him as a person, but as a fighter and as like a showman and him playing the game, he actually did very well, right? Like you can't take him away from that, right? But it was by design. He did everything for a very particular cause and a reason. So that I could totally understand. It's more of like that just that dude who's never trained in his life that just thinks he could still talk that kind of shit and just raise to the occasion without ever being formally trained. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like you're missing the big part here, dude. He could do that because you're not seeing what's happening behind the scenes and how much he really is preparing and taking this seriously, even though he says he's not. He is. The guy who's doing nothing is just gonna do this. Like, oh, again, that guy's never touched a hot stove. You want to fix that lesson, dude? Throw him to the wolves. Let's bang it out right now. I'll give you that lesson today, but free of charge, and you will learn. You know, and if we went back to that mentality, you'd fix a lot of things. I think people would be nicer to each other. The world would be a much better place, right? Remember when bullying became a pandemic? That cracked me up. I thought that was hilarious.
A panda,
I was
yeah,
like,
just train
bullying
kids
and
to
panic.
fight.
I was like, you know how you deal with bullies? You fight these guys. That's what we've done since the beginning of time. When it was like two cavemen on Earth, they were trying to kill each other, right? Like where there's another human being, there's going to be conflict. Someone's going to fight you one day, right? Two cavemen, one tried to kill the other one with a rock, right? Like we're going to do it. If you're around other human beings, you need to learn the fight game because it's just a matter of time. So how you deal with it though is you fight. Bullying became a pandemic when we took violence off the table, right? When it was like, do everything but hit this guy, now turned into a pandemic.
Because there's always going to
Fine.
be someone willing to hit.
Yeah, fighting
And if
is
you
the
make it
answer.
a rule not to hit, who are going to be the people who don't hit? The people who follow the rules.
Hmm.
The people who don't follow the rules don't care.
Correct.
So you just gave them an advantage now. Where if everyone's allowed to hit, I'm probably gonna be like, man. Like when I learned to fight, and the more I trained, the less fights I got into.
Yeah,
Because
same.
yeah, like if people afraid of me. When I go into the gym, people look at me and they're like, "Oh, dude, you look big, you look scary." I'm scared of the 130-pound dude who plays video games all day and trains every day of the week and can rearrange my knees. Like, that's
Yeah.
the dude I fear.
Yeah, and once you're in the fight game, you learn that, right? You know that. You see the caliber of what's out there and then like how much more guys can get involved in it and dedicate time to it and like the levels to it. Like just when you think you're good, you realize, oh, I got a long way to go. And when you see that, it's extremely humbling, right? And then now you carry yourself very differently, right? And I think it goes back to the world would be a much nicer place if everybody knew that fighting was on the table, right? Like people would be a lot nicer to each other. But if we strip that from the table, then people get away with being not as nice human beings, saying things they wouldn't normally say, doing things that they wouldn't normally do because there's no checks and balances. And if we go back to checks and balances, it will just restore a lot of this order and this false persona that everybody's running around with, right? I remember I had to have that conversation a couple years back, right? I was out at a bar and the bartender got mad because I think I was talking to a lady that he was trying to get somewhere with, and I guess he liked her and he was, trying to go down that road. And, I didn't know that they weren't together or anything, but, he liked her. So I'm here talking to her. So he starts giving me a bunch of attitude, getting real, like, kind of nasty with me. Right. And I'm like, hey, bud, like, you, let me explain like life to you right now. Like, you obviously don't know who I am. Right. And, like I don't know who you are, but I know how far I'm willing to go, and I know you're not willing to go there. But like you're treating this bar like it's some kind of moat, right? Like I can't overcome the thing, right? Like I could hop this bar and murder you in like 3 seconds, and nobody is going to help you. Nobody has time to help you or capability to help you. So, like, everything you're doing right now, you're doing with a false sense of protection, thinking that I'm not going to do that. And if I change my mind and I do, you can't do anything to stop it, because this little imaginary moat that you think is going to stop me won't stop me. Right. And maybe in the back of your head, like, I'm going to call the police. Well, I know their response time, bud, and it's about 7 to 14 minutes in this area. I could kill you many times over in that. They're not going to get to you in time. They're going to come and take the report and help everybody else in this building from me. But I don't have a problem with everybody else in this building. But they can't do anything for you, because I ultimately hold your fate in my hands based on how you treat me right now. So the next words that come out of your mouth, you need to be very selective with them, because I'm ultimately holding your fate and deciding whether or not you're going to go home the same way you left. And it is wholly and solely up to me and the words that come out of your mouth next. Like, don't get caught up in this false reality. Like, I can't do anything to hurt you, because I very much can. I'm just choosing not to. You see what I mean? And the kid's face was like he saw a ghost, and it just reality hit home that, like, wow, I'm not safe. And this guy totally can destroy me, and he's willing to. And whatever protections I thought I had, they're not there. And it was like a wake up call. And it was great because it just restored order for a moment, right? We got to see real life, right? Like, there are checks and balances. All these rules, all these laws, all these false protections, they only matter if people are willing to abide by them. The day I'm not, then you just better be better at violence than me. At this point, it's a measure of wills. It's who's going to do the dance. And then who's willing to go further in that dance, right? Like, there's the mental side of that too, right? And I sit there and I go through all the things in my head, and I know what the repercussions are because I'm in the life. And I'm like, is it worth it? And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is today, And
Did I
that's
have my
scary.
coffee? No, it's worth it. It's worth
Yeah,
it.
but I'll weigh it out. I'm extremely calculated of an individual. I don't do anything not calculated. So I'll sit here and I'll run through it all, and I'll be like, is this worth it or not? If I feel that it is, I'll push the issue. If not, I'll just kind of let it go. But if I'm making that decision, it's not me not knowing what I'm doing. It's not me getting mad, though. It's a very calculated decision. It's just something that I have to feel strong enough to be able to pursue. But if I do, then I will. And it's just, you catch people on the wrong day, in the wrong mood, at the wrong time. It doesn't take much. Everybody's got the capability to just kind of flip out, right? We're all human beings.
Yeah, that's for sure. And training can help you with that. So if that's not an ad to go train, I don't know what else is. If someone is going over the bar and telling me this imaginary moat and my decision not to, now I'm going to calculate in my brain. I'm going to be like, is it worth it for me? Let's both get to yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll figure it out. Or I'm like, you know what? I got my wife and kids here. Or I got my buddies here. This ain't worth it. But having that training and experience allows you to go through this and go, maybe tomorrow, today it ain't worth it. And you know what? You don't lose anything, because you're like, hey, the whole point of this is for me not to get into this engagement because it's not going to benefit me. You win, right?
Correct.
Back in the day, I'd be called a punk until, now I'm just like, all right, bet, like, we can settle this because it's more worth it for me now with you calling me a punk, and you're my boy, and I know we're going to be good tomorrow, but I could smack you right now and you're not going to do anything about it. Like, I'll entertain this one though, and they're like, oh, never mind. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
good.
for
See,
sure.
You just did,
right?
You just did what I did. See, like, you ain't a punk, you smart. But
yeah, so it's checks and balances, and it's one of those things that is just super important, right? And like, look, that dude got a life lesson that day, right? And the next time he mounts off against somebody, he's probably going to think, yeah, maybe I should handle this a little bit different, right? Or, maybe I should go get training so I could say what it is that I want to say and be able to, whatever it is, it's going to make him better having that kind of altercation, right?
He's using that speech you gave him on people, and people think he's the badass bartender.
He probably is. You know what? You're probably right.
That was smooth, bro. I was listening. I'm like, yeah, I might think twice too. I don't even know. But imaginary moat, your decision. Man, let me think twice.
Yeah, but no, I mean, people could read the level of just confidence and
Oh,
assurance, right? To where like they could tell that like, okay, this dude's not messing around. Like he really believes this. Uh, but yeah, he probably is out there faking it until he makes it. And
he's
it's
probably
probably it
catching
probably
a
worked
couple.
for him.
I don't know that speech equipped with what your story. I'm like, this happened. This happened.
Yeah.
This 100% happened. You started direct action training to be the change you want to see. What exactly is the BS in the tactical training industry that you got sick of seeing, and what are you doing to kind of combat that? Because I could sit here and list 1,000 things, but like, what were you seeing that kind of push you and motivate you to approach training how you do?
Yeah, mainly just again, a lot of people teaching stuff that was either like out of their realm or stuff that they didn't spend enough time in order to be able to actually be able to teach that. Or just the institutional inbreeding of instructors where it's like, well, my instructor did it like this, but I didn't ask why. And then my instructor did it like this. I didn't ask why. 10 instructors later, you got a guy teaching you something and he has no idea why, where it came from, what you should be doing with it, how it came about, etc. So that kind of stuff happened through just like bad instruction over the years, over the years, over the years, and it was never addressed. And I think getting in there and being that change uh, through my own company and being able to fly my own flag, and then also be able to have that change through my agency as well, is my best way to combat that. Right? Like what I don't want to be is just the guy just getting into these disputes and just trolling other people and just calling out other companies, right? Like you could see, like I've made a lot of statements on this podcast, but I haven't called out any individual or any individual company because I don't want to be that guy getting in that tit for tat stuff. Um, Anything that I said that does apply, I'm sure whoever it applies to understands it, right? So I don't need to call anyone out in specifics, and I don't think that that's how you move the needle on things, right? Like go be what you want to be, go do what you want to do, be a standard that you want to set rather than just talking about it or calling someone else out for not doing it. I'd rather just go do my thing and then let that kind of speak for itself. And that's because people tell me all the time, like I'm very much in this community, and they're like, "Well, what do you think about this guy?" And like, if you ask me, I'll tell you. I'm just never going to volunteer that information to you because, but if you ask me, I'll tell you. And they're like, "Well, then, why don't you uh, kind of combat that or change that or confront?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to be that guy. Don't mix it up with
Well,
that
you are in a
community like
sense
that."
of like by doing your training, like you're
Correct.
combating it by providing the training you want to see. I don't need
Yes.
to, right? Like the first thing I look for, sorry to interrupt you, when I go to a training and the first thing they're doing is bad mouthing this other company, red flags are going off.
Hmm.
Because in my mind, I'm like, if you're so good, show me. Like, don't bring them down. Like, you rise up and show me why you're different or why you're good or why you're better, why your system. Like, as soon as I start hearing that, I'm like, I was in one of the classes, and again, I don't bad talk other companies, but hey, what other trainings have you guys been to? And I list them, right? I'm like, oh, I've been to this and this and this because we're introducing ourselves and kind of see where everyone's at. I've trained for this many years. I'm in jujitsu, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, you went to that? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, those dudes don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't really apply to law enforcement. I'm like, okay. Okay. Like, it's already made me like not want to really be here because I'm like, all right, like we're beefing. I've been here for 30 minutes and we're already beefing.
Yeah, right. And like I hate that. I don't get involved in that. I don't want to be that guy. Like if you want, it's framing it, right? If you want my opinion on a certain something, like, hey, what do you think about this technique, or what do you think about this design, or what do you think about this approach? I'll tell you what I think about it. But it's gonna have to be sourced like that. Like you're not gonna get me uh, talking about other companies at my own free will like that because again, everyone's got their methodology, their way of doing things. I'm not going to change their mind. I don't care to change their mind. I have my lineage, my background. I know where my stuff came from. I could support my stuff. Let me just focus on that and I'll put that out there. And then, you know what? You make your decision, right? Whatever it is you decide after you have all the information, that's on you, right? All I could do is be the provider of information. So let me do that and then let the cards kind of fall where they fall. And that's always how I've combated it. So I stay very somewhat isolated in this community. Like people ask me all the time, like, why aren't you mixing it up here? Why aren't you doing this? And everyone's doing this. And why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, well, because I just want to do my own thing. I don't want to be a part of that and do my own thing. And you know, let them do them. I'm gonna do me, and that's that. And I kind of leave it like that. But I do think that that's the best way to combat it, right? Just you put out your stuff and let people decide what it is that they want to decide from that, right? Like that's the whole reason I got into teaching in the first place. It was to be able to just spread knowledge, right? I've acquired a lot over the years and the times that I've got to work with like all these different people. And not only do I have all the training, I got a lot of experience that taught me things too. So I have the training and the experiences stuff that have taught me things. And now it's just me relaying that information. But the good thing is everything that I teach, I could tell you the whys. I could tell you where it came from, where I learned it, where they learned it, the whole lineage behind it, right? Like I'm very big on that kind of stuff because I feel like that's how you truly know it. If I can't answer those questions, then I don't know it myself, right? So I always looked at it like this, right? I read an old quote from Albert Einstein, and it's like, if you can't teach it to a 6-year-old, then you don't know it yourself, and that always stuck with me. And I was like, as an instructor, that's kind of where I feel like I need to be. If I can't break this thing down to the ridiculous and tell you everything about it in detail and simplify it in such a way that I could get a 6-year-old to understand it, then I don't really know it myself. And if I can't answer those whys, then I don't really know it myself. So I have to be able to answer those whys. So I won't put out information or start teaching classes on a subject that I've only dabbled in. I have to know that subject before I put it out. And I feel like there's a lot of guys in this community that will go do a weekend course, a weekend cert, and then start putting on that type of stuff. But I think you got to be careful with that because I don't think you spent enough time in the game to really filter all those whys, right? You're kind of going off that institutional inbreeding stuff where it's like, okay, I learned this from him and he said it, so it must be true. So then now I'm going to do that. Well, what I would say is just go explore that more, right? Spend more time there. Develop more time there to where when these questions do start to come out, you got a lot more to fall back on than what you have right now, right? Like training shouldn't be like a one and done type thing, right? It's just it's from the fight game. I realized it is my life's work, right? Like you don't stop, you just keep going. There's always levels, there's always a place to go, so you just have to keep going, right? It's not a one and done. I had someone ask me recently, they're like, "Oh, can I be a direct action training certified instructor on you? You do like certification programs?" And I was like, "No, I don't do those certification programs. I don't believe in them." And they're like, "Oh, well, why not? Like, you can make a lot of money doing that." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't care. There's other ways to make money. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not gonna trash my name, my company, and my lineage, my whole training methodology on something like that. I don't believe in it." Right? I was like, think about it like this, right? You haven't trained before, you barely trained, you come in, maybe we run whatever cert program you're talking about, and I give you like a what 2 weeks of training with me or something like that, or 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is. No matter how much time, it's just never going to be enough. Now you do that week with me, you're direct action training certified instructor, and now you go out there and teach other people. I've just lost all credibility because you're going off of a week training with me when you and I both know you can't learn anything in a week. It's just not enough time. So now you're going to run out there and you're going to go put on this course with that name. You're going to get answered questions that you can't answer because you don't truly know yourself. And then, next thing you know, you're certifying somebody. And then now you see where that goes. And it was like the one thing I didn't want to do with my company. I was like, if I do have instructors, but all the guys that work with me have super credible backgrounds. These guys were all like pro fighters themselves. They're all, SWAT dudes or private military contracting dudes. They've trained with me for years before I ever signed off on them. Now I know I could trust that guy to go out there and teach whatever it is that we're teaching. He's going to be okay. But it's not like my selection process for who works for me as an instructor is not just this whole you come in, do a week certain and you're good. Like I won't get into that game when it comes to my company because I think that's how a lot of bad information does get out there.
And I was gonna harp on that. There's a lot of organizations, and let me preempt with, if you're offended by this, that's a you problem. You should probably look internally and seek to fix that offense. But that aside, I had to say that.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of companies that, and I know what they're doing. It's good intention, but they'll put out a course and then there'll be a 50-50 split usually, or more like a 30-70 split. Like 30% of people train. They get after it. They have the background, the lineage, and they hit it hard. Um, they get their 5 day cert. They dive deeper into it, right? They keep training, they keep learning, they keep growing, right? And about 5% will be like, "Wow, I got my cert. This stuff is cool. This awakened me." They dive down the rabbit hole, boom, boom, boom. But unfortunately, the truth is the majority of people will get their cert, and now they're responsible for going back to their agencies and training people, and they don't go out on their own. They don't train on their own time. They don't train on the department's time. They don't spend extra time even YouTubing or looking up the online reference materials. They're just like, got my certificate, got the book, gonna go through the book from 1 to 7, however many um, techniques we learned. And then that's robbing a whole generation of officers who are like, you're responsible for training them. And now they're in here and they're like, well, for example, let's say you're teaching a technique, a weapon retention technique, and you get the typical question. Well, what about if this happens? You don't have a response to that because you only learned this technique from this variation. And you may not have all the answers, but the more training you go to, you can actually work through it. Well, let's get down. Let's get to it. Okay, so you're talking about this position. Okay, so the principle here is, right, this is the first principle. Boom. If we're in this position, how would we get to this, right? Like we always say, like what we teach is control before, pulling out your firearm, right? A lot of times you see officers, they get in a scuffle. The first thing they want to do is pull their gun because they're scared. Well, now you're fighting for your gun. So
Yeah.
our first thing is try to control that same side limb, right? If you have that under control, you're probably right. Like if me and you are going at it and I'm controlling this, where my firearm is this limb, if I have that under control, it's probably a better opportunity for me to present if I have to, if the situation warrants it. Doesn't matter
Correct.
if you're turned around, if you're facing me, if I'm on top of you. If you keep that principle in mind, that's a better opportunity to present than if you don't have that same side. But if you don't understand that, you can't communicate that to someone.
Agreed. And the what it is people learn in techniques and then they teach in techniques and then techniques fail. And the reason is you don't know the principles and concepts behind that technique. If you understand principles and concepts behind the techniques and you understand that, you could develop your own techniques. You could modify techniques. You could answer these questions with the principle and concept because you truly understand the principle and concept. But you're only going to get that if you really understand the principles and concepts behind the technique. And that's why I make sure when I teach, even if I'm teaching people that don't know what they're doing, I don't just teach them in technique. I teach them principles and concepts. And then they can now give birth to new techniques, modified techniques, adjustments to these techniques. They understand how to string these techniques together based off the principle and the concept. And that's how people become applicators. It's also how you become good instructor. You have to know principles and concepts. If you're only teaching in techniques, you're regurgitating information,
Yeah.
and that's what the masses are doing. But if we know principles and concepts, we can now be able to filter and answer these questions appropriately. And it may be by showing a different technique, but because of the new principle and concept that came up, or modifying one that is there. And like all of these little modifications and changes is what's going to just make for that good instructor. But think about how deep that instructor had to go to be able to do that. And I think a lot of times people will start their kind of teaching a little bit too early before they've developed that. And what I would say is like, go develop that first, or at least start to develop that and then start teaching because it's going to help you with those situations. Also, whenever you're learning information, make sure you're learning it in principles and concepts, not just techniques. If I can't plug and play this technique in live application, it's because I don't know principles and concepts. So I have to know that. So it should be taught like that. If it's not taught like that, then find out those answers, ask those questions. They should be able to answer them. If so, you're going to get more out of that because you truly understand it. If not, the instructor is going to know that they need some work to do as well. And that may be where they get down there on the floor and they tell you, all right, let's figure this out together. Right. You brought up a really good question. And I don't have a straight answer for you, but you know what? Let's explore this and see what we could come up with together. And then we're pressure test it and make sure it's good. And if we both feel good with it, we're start to explore that deeper. And then we're reunite and see what we come up with there. And I think that that approach is great. And if we did more collabs like that and we got more involved with instead of my technique's better than your technique and all that bullshit in this community, but we also taught principles and concepts and shared ideas and things like this, think about how much better we would be collectively.
I agree. I agree. It's a big gatekeeping community. It's like I have the magic answer and no one
Yeah.
else can have it.
Which is
And it's
bullshit
like
because no, there is no
that's what I'm saying.
100%
Like,
move, 100% technique. And like at that point, you're like snake oil salesman, right? I mean, like
yeah,
if you have to like withhold information to keep stringing along your people and students and whatnot, then you don't know enough about it yourself, right? Like I don't hold anything back. When I'm teaching, I give all the information, right? But I'm not worried about them not needing me anymore because of that information because I'm still acquiring new information constantly. So I always need to train. Therefore, you're always going to need to train. So I'm not dependent on you not needing me just because I gave you the information now. Like, grow with me. Come on this journey and let's grow together and see what else we could find. I'm not worried about running out of material either because again, I got like 2.5 decades in the game. I've done a lot of stuff, seen a lot of stuff. If you think you could get all that in a few hours on a seminar with me, then you're crazy.
I was gonna ask,
Like,
can I get a 5-day class of everything you know?
oh, you're gonna need a lot more than 5 days, but there's so much going on up here, like that's why again, I'm just not afraid to give anything. I'll give them principles, concepts. I'll give them all the answers. Um, and again, I've even had students where they're like, why, like, no one's ever pitched it to me like this. And I told them part of the reason as to why that is. And they're like, well, aren't you like worried that, and I'm like, look, I'm not doing my job if I'm not giving you anything. And I'm not doing my job, if you think that that's enough information for you to never need me again, then you don't deserve to train me in the first place because you missed the mark, bud. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that. And like, I feel like the instructors that are, they just haven't done enough yet in their own personal findings and filtering of information and training themselves if they feel like they have to withhold that from people, right? Like just go do better, be better, go learn more so you have more to give, more understanding, right? Like that
Dude, I'm
should
like
just motivate you.
yeah, I'm like the opposite. When I'm teaching, I can't stop, dude. Like I'm like I'll dive down. Someone asks one question, that could be the whole class. And that's my problem sometimes. We'll be like, and I'm like, oh, we're here for this. Let's like, but we'll get back to
Ah,
that. Like stay after you and me. Like, because this is so exciting to me, especially when someone comes in and that you see the light bulbs go off and they're excited
mm,
and they want to learn more. I'm like,
I love it.
yes, like I love it. Like that's what this is about, you know?
Yeah.
And I
So
like the
I'm like you too. I need a handler as well. And all the guys that teach with me, they know, and they're constantly watching clocks, and they're giving me little signals and stuff, and they're will me back in because if not, I do start kind of getting off. Like that's the one skill set as an instructor that I would say I still haven't learned to kind of do really well is the time management aspect because I loved it and I go down that rabbit hole. So I need a handler to keep me on my timeline and keep me in check.
maybe I need one. I need to get one
Mhm.
because the little. And I'm like,
It
oh yeah, what's
helps.
up? You lunch? All right, yeah. And I
Yeah.
just keep going, and they're like, he doesn't listen. But I just
Yeah,
get so
that's another
excited.
problem too, is because I do like the intermittent fasting thing, right? Like I just like barely so I don't like break for lunch or stop or think like, you see all these guys' faces and everyone's like, dude, it's lunchtime. I'm like, oh, well, I don't have a lunchtime, so I
Yeah,
don't even think of it for me. And I often forget that. So they also have to time check me with lunches too, because if not, I'll work right through
and
them.
for cops, that's important. You got to have 10-minute PP breaks every hour, and then the hour and 10 minutes before lunchtime because they got to beat the lunch rush. Like, dude, training has gotten so crazy to me. Like, I was just at a class, and the class was phenomenal, right? Critical incident management for tactical responses. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, this is great. Um, And then he's doing the police approach because he teaches so many cops. He's like, I understand this is how I keep their attention, giving them 10-minute breaks every hour. I'm like, we're gonna go be here forever. And we were there forever because of the 10-minute PP breaks and an hour and 10-minute lunch. If you have enough time in training to go sit down at a restaurant, order, eat, talk, and go back to training, that is wild to me. That is wild to me. Like if you didn't pack or you can't go run somewhere and grab something real quick, bring it back, and like if you can sit down at a restaurant, eat, pay the tab, like that is wild to me. Like that shouldn't be like pack the training. But again, I'm different. I understand I'm different, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
No, same. I'm in the same boat, and I agree. And I always forget them. The 10-minute breaks, like I stopped doing that a while ago. Um, but I'm like, look, we're all grown adults here. You got to step out. You got to go deal with that on your own. I'm not
Yeah,
giving you 10 minutes because it's like herding cats to try to bring them back in. It's a nightmare. So that 10-minute turns into 20 minutes, and if we're doing that every hour, we're losing valuable time. Like I don't get enough time with them anyway to train. Right? Like we said, most agencies are doing what 4 hours a year worth of DT. I got to give you 10 minutes and then herd you back in every 20 minutes on the hour. Plus, I'm giving you a lunch. Forget about it. We've lost all the training time. Right? Like I would rather not. And luckily, like I said, I got a lot of support from my command where they just do let me kind of run things, and I can go ahead and do that, and they totally support it and back it. And as long as I have that, I feel like we're going to be able to do great things and move the needle forward. But I know that that's not the norm for everyone and everywhere, and that's where it's like you do what you can. I can't fix this across the board because other agencies just aren't there yet, right? But I think by starting where I'm at now and then starting to kind of like take that out and branch out, I think we'll be able to move the needle on it eventually. Like we've come a long way in a short time, but we just still got a long way to go.
for sure. And you mentioned, and we talked about a lot of stuff, especially stress inoculation. And I kind of want people to understand, like, because we've said it in different ways, but in a simple term, how does essentially training more make you better, right? How does getting punched in the face make you a better cop? To make it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So mainly it's just the level of stress of getting punched in the face is probably some of the highest stress you're going to deal with in your life, right? You could have the stress of a tennis match, the stress of maybe not being able to pay a bill on time, and you're going to have many other stresses in life. But I don't think there's a lot of comparables to the stress of somebody just pounding your face in. That's a very, very high stress situation. So if that becomes the norm and that becomes something that you're able to deal with, then anything that's equal to or less than that it is just now gotten a lot easier to be able to deal with. So if I go to a call and that call starts getting a little bit crazy, it's still not going to be as crazy as me getting my face pounded in. Like if I'm used to dealing with that, I'm going to be able to manage the stresses of this call a lot easier. And it's the way that you're going to be able to learn how to deal with a fight. And at the end of the day, if your fight training is correct, then fighting is fighting, right? Like I don't think you have to be shot at to know how you would deal with being in a shooting. If I'm used to pounding you in the face and you're used to like, banging it out, and somebody like laying into you on heavy, heavy sparring days and knowing you could eat an elbow or a knee to the face, that is scarier to most people than being shot at, right? Like taking a shin to the forehead is going to be worse than eating around, right? So, and it's way more intimate. It's not a guy from over there. I mean, we're face to face and Buddy's getting after it and he could still follow up on that. There's a different fear that comes with somebody being right there, able to just kind of give you the work. So I think once you're used to dealing with that, then everything else that is fight related is going to be doable because I understand what it feels like to be in a fight where I'm in danger and I could get seriously hurt and or lose my life. So the more times I could put myself through that, whatever this call turns into, I'm going to have a better chance of being able to deal with it because I can see how that person handles the stress of being seriously hurt and or killed. Like that is an important part of the training. Like again, I know a lot of SWAT dudes that do real good in operations, and I think they would be okay in the shooting, but not really. I don't really know. They're terrified of like the DT side of the house when it's time to work that, and I feel like that's a problem, right? But if I have a guy on that team who like he's a banger, I'm not worried about that guy in the shooting. Like he's going to be fine. I know he could deal with it because the stress of the shot. Oh, what I may get hit, I may get hurt. Like, no, dude, this guy was just getting mangled in the gym by a monster for all week. Like, the idea of getting hurt, possibly dying, is not scary to him when he's doing that in a face-to-face intimate setting all the time. Now we're gonna do it like disconnected at distance with guns. Like, not worried about that guy. You know what I mean? But a person who doesn't train, I am still worried about him. I don't know how he's going to respond. He doesn't really know how he's going to respond. Why? He's never been there. That is more dangerous to me. I don't like that idea. It's where I think like guys need to be able to do that, right? Like if the idea of sparring terrifies you, how good am I going to feel about entering a house with you and this thing possibly turning bad one day? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll just black out.
Yeah. So I want all my guys to be squared away on that side of the house where I know they're good when it comes to that. Like that guy's going to be fine. And I think that's what you're getting. So if we could do that down to road patrol, which is the true first responders, right? Because even in the SWAT life thing, right, you're not there when it's going bad most of the time. You're getting there way after the fact. You got a lot of intel. You're gearing up. You got your boys with you. You got, there's a lot of things that are kind of working for you, right? Boots on the ground, like the road patrol guys, I mean, like they're in it, man. They're showing up live right to it, drop of a hat, right? And I feel like those guys need it the most and they don't appreciate it the most, but they're the ones that actually need it the most, right? Because they're the ones that are truly going to be there. So, just agency wide, if somebody's going to be coming to like save my life one day and deal with a critical incident or someone else's most stressful day of their life, I want them to be good at handling stress, right? And the best way to handle stress is to get punched in the face every day and smile about it, right? And if I'm okay with that, whatever else they throw at me is not going to be that big of a deal.
Beautifully said. Because we always talk, we hear this online a lot. We hear train, 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 train. Training, you can apply training to your daily life, but no one ever connects it. And I think that explanation is a great connection. If I can do these super hard things willingly,
Mm.
when these less super hard things come, and it wasn't my choice, but they're less hard, I'll be okay at dealing with them because I know how I deal with this. I'll be fine with that. And even that gives you that confidence, the clear mind to make sound decisions, better sound decisions, and contingencies, right? Like if you're not froze and stuck in this, oh my gosh, I'm stressed, you can go, haven't dealt with this before, but I've dealt with something similar. You're able to think through things. You're able to combat, breathe. You're able to do all that good stuff. So,
Well, yeah, and there's science to back it too, right? I mean, if you've uh, when people get stressed out, right, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to go to the limbic system of their brain or the cortex portion of their brain. How the brain determines which side it's going to go. And that's why I say the fighting is the truth, because I can't decide, well, I'm going to go here. My brain's going to do it for me based off of subconscious life training and experience. So I don't get to make that choice. My brain will make that choice based on how I've lived my life and what I've been exposed to and what I've done. So when I'm asked, subconsciously, hey, how do I deal with the situation that's going to kill me? It's going to immediately go, what training and experience do we have to combat that? If we don't have anything, we're going to the limbic system of our brain where all the emotions stored. This is where the paralysis sets in and the fear sets in and the not being able to do the cognitive thinking stuff because we're not operating out of the cortex portion of our brain anymore. We're operating out of the limbic system. Why? Because we could not filter the question of, do I have the training and or experience to deal with this stressful situation? If we do, we're going to go to the cortex portion of the brain where we can actually make sound decisions, right? And now I could actually put together and kind of task management and do things uh, that most people would not be able to do during that time or setting. That's how it's done. It's done by How much stress can I deal with? And how similar and close was this stress to the stress that I'm dealing with now? Again, am I seeing this blade come at me or the big rubber orange one? If so, that's not the same stress, right? My mind's going to connect that to being different, and I'm going to go to the limbic system, even though I thought I was training to go to the cortex. So we have to make sure that whatever training we're going to do is closest to reality as possible. And I mean, I've gone through trainings where, like, like active killer stuff, like crazy trainings, where they had like role players make up everything like this, and then I've gone like in real life, and I remember on real life calls being like, my training looked way more real than this, and I remember saying that like out loud, and I was like, this doesn't even like look real. Like my training was better than this, and this was the real life incident, and like I was just you're able to go through that so much easier knowing that, yeah, like my training was more realistic. My training was harder than this. Like I remember going through fights too, where it was like I had gym wars way worse than any of these fights, right? Like this is easy, you know? And if it's the whole train hard, fight easy mentality, it's a very real thing. So that's where you're going to move the needle. That's where you're making real strides is you want to get your training as close to reality as possible. So much so that when it does hit, you're like, this seems fake. My training was way harder and way worse. You know, now everything's easier because look at that guy. Look at his ability to manage stress, right? Like that smooth sailing, and it can be done. And you know, we have seen it. There's science to back it. Training has come a long way, and I think more and more people are figuring it out. But it really just comes down to that, and it's not really rocket science, right? It's like how can I make that training as close to reality as possible? Like what I did with the knives. That's just to me, that's like common sense, even though it's not so common. It seems very much common sense. Like if I'm training for a real blade, I need to make this thing look real. So I think that it's a real blade coming at me. It needs to be metal so I could feel when I mess up. Oh, that would have been really bad if that was a real blade coming. Let me tighten up. Um, then I change it out for a real blade, and you see that the stress didn't change at all in the person, and you're like, oh, okay, like I know that person's going to do fine in real life now. They know they're going to do fine in real life now because they've gotten as close to reality as possible. And again, there is no 100%, but this guy's got his percentage as high as he could possibly get them. And that's pretty much the game. Everyone is either looking for the 100% answer, right? Like I need a 100% move. I need a 100% style. There is none. We figured that out long ago. Mixed martial arts, right? The concept is you got to mix these things together. The fact that I still hear guys preaching one style nowadays is crazy to me. I was like, we had this conversation. We've been through this already. When early days of the fight game, it was one-dimensional guys versus one-dimensional guys. We realized, hey, you got to mix these things. So the answer should always be that until we could find something better. So when you still see guys pitching the one-dimensional stuff now, I'm like, how are you not paying attention to like anything else that's been put out? There's no one-dimensional style. You can't be a one-trick pony anymore. You got to mix them. That was always the answer. It's always going to be the answer. So whenever I hear that, especially nowadays, it's frustrating because I think like back then nobody knew. We were still figuring it out. I didn't know if this style was better than that style. Now we know. So when I hear guys preaching now, I'm like, oh, you're not taking the time in the game long enough to find these answers, but I know they're out there now.
I'm glad you brought that up because you just gave me. So we're going to move into the Relentless Rapid Round. And I have the first question.
Oh, here we go.
You're the perfect dude to ask, right? Because, I get a lot of fighters on the podcast. I get a lot of grapplers on the podcast, a lot of boxers, whatever. And I always ask, and obviously the boxers are going to say boxing. The grapplers are going to say their art of grappling. You've done it all. So, I'm interested to see. So, the first question. So for the people who haven't listened, this is the first time listening, the Relentless Rapid Round. Quick question, quick answers, no thinking, no overthinking, just boom, quick responses. So, we're going to clear the mechanism, quick answers only. And the first question is, if you had to choose one martial art, one to use in a fight, you can't use any other one, which one would you go to and why?
Mixed martial arts.
No.
It's become a style now. That is the answer.
Okay, minus mixed martial arts. You have to choose one of the mixes. Which one and why?
Can't do it. It's got to be like a hybrid. It's boxing, wrestling.
Mixed martial.
Oh, mixed martial arts. Here we go. We're right back to it. See, that's the real answer. The real answer is mixed martial arts. It's always going to be mixed martial arts. There is no one super
In
style.
real life, there is, yeah, and that's my thing. When I get into this jiu-jitsu versus boxing thing, I'm like, yeah, boxers can grapple, and grapplers can strike, and everyone can bite, kick. Like, there's no like, I'll just kick you. I'll kick you too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll use the weapon. I will too. Like, these are still available to me.
100%.
I thought that'd be a funny question to throw in there.
It is, and it's a funny answer.
Martial arts, mixed martial arts.
Exactly.
But all right, now to the actual questions I thought about and put down. What spikes your heart rate more, walking into a pro fight or stacking up on a door for a SWAT raid?
The fight for sure.
If a civilian can only learn, I already asked that. Oh, okay. No, this is a good one. If a civilian wants to learn a martial art for pure real world survival, where should they start? I thought it's a good one. You can't tell someone who's never trained, do all of them. Like, which one would you recommend doing first?
Wrestling.
That's a good one, right? You learn stress inoculation, you learn positioning. What was your reason for why wrestling?
As a standalone style, I feel like you could take more from wrestling and apply it into the overall fight game than any other style. Like, that's the style that decides where we go. If I want to stay standing, I need wrestling to do it. If I want to go to the ground, I need wrestling to do it. So it is that way of controlling where that fight goes and just how it goes there, right? If I could only control the stand-up side and I could only control the ground side, I could get it easily exposed on the other side. If I just know the transition art, then I may not be necessarily a heavy finisher, but I have the ability to control where the fight's going to go, when it goes there, and how it goes there. Plus, wrestling on someone who doesn't know how to fall could actually be extremely destructive in the street. And it doesn't get the credit because you normally see a wrestler fighting another wrestler on a mat. But if you take a wrestler and you put him to some average dude out there on concrete, it's actually a very effective style. You get a whole lot of damage for it for next to nothing. But wrestlers are extremely hard to deal with, and they get to decide and control where the fight's going to go. So having that one ability to do that gives that style a little bit more of an edge than some of the others if we're just talking one style.
I just saw a video. I forget who it was.
Also for law enforcement, sorry to cut you off. I think that you always hear jiu-jitsu is the number one style for law enforcement, and I highly disagree. Apples to apples, wrestling is way more applicable to law enforcement than jiu-jitsu is. Think about it. You look at an Abu Dhabi match. Does it look like a use of force? No, it doesn't. Look at an Olympic wrestling match. Does it look like use of force? Absolutely. You got like the naked Flocka guy, aka sweaty guy in a singlet, who doesn't want to be controlled, who's just trying to scramble and get away. Now you have a wrestler who is using subject control to manhandle him, put him exactly where he wants him to be. That's more what we do in law enforcement. We're not out here tapping people out. We're not doing it from our backs, and we're not doing butt scoots. So yes, there is a lot of jujitsu stuff that we can take, right? Like I'm big for S-mount in law enforcement. I think for weapon retention, all sorts of stuff, there's great things you could do with that. And I think that should be explored more. But if we're going to go apples to apples, the one style that mimics a use of force and uses skill sets that we need more than anything else in the world of law enforcement, wrestling has more validity than BJJ does.
I can respect your position on that. I always say jiu-jitsu. But the principles I bring up are more wrestling. Now that I think about it.
Exactly.
Other than Neon Belly.
Neon Belly is my Neon Belly, S-mount, great.
Yeah. Because we're not. I don't advise people to mount, especially with your gear. Right. Someone else comes, you get pinned, you can't get off. So, yeah, wrestling. Man, I'm gonna have to explore. I'm gonna have to reframe my answer now.
Yeah, look at it closer because, like I said, go watch wrestling matches. Look at use of forces. Look at Abu Dhabi matches. Look at uses of forces. The ability to grab someone who's really trying to get away, which is most of the time what we're dealing with. That scrambly naked guy who's trying to get away. That's the guy we're dealing with. The best way to control him is not so much jujitsu. The best way to control him is the way a wrestler controls other wrestlers, right? The ability to collapse frames on the ground, the ability to spin people over when I need to, the ability to take them down, the ability to not have them take me down. That ability to use that level worth of subject control stems more from wrestling than it does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, that is true. When you're ankle picking or you're trying to,
Mhm.
and balance someone, okay, I give you that. I like that. I'm gonna have to look into that more. Besides a firearm and your new knife, what is one piece of gear you never leave the house without?
Tactical pens, super big on them. I love these things, right?
Jeez, that's
I
a
mean,
pen if I ever saw one.
yeah, so it's brass, things super dense, super solid, but looks like a pen, right? It's not too menacing looking, and that was important. But these are incredible because I could travel all over the world with this. I could have this in my hand while I talk to people. I could get this in any building, and if I know where to put this on people, you could shut them down. This in a wrestler's hand, understanding nerves, right? You ever had like a pinched nerve or a trapped nerve?
Yeah, I have one right now.
Yeah, devastating, right? It'll
I
shut you down,
can't
right?
walk.
We've done sternum rubs, right? You know how effective
Oh
those
yeah.
things are. Imagine if I drive this into somebody's sternum. One of the ladies I taught, she actually cracked a dude's sternum with this. Um, so if I know where to put this and I have good empty-handed skill sets with these other arts that I'm talking about, but now I put this in my hand, still beats flesh. Like you could do so much with this tool. It is brilliant. On one of the Flocka guys in law enforcement, he was laying on his hands, right? We're all on top of him, trying to get his hands out, doesn't want to give us his hands. I drive this in his spine, right between two vertebrae. As soon as it hits that nerve, arms come flailing out, legs come up. Dude looked like Shamu, right? Just completely arced up. Now we got his hands behind his back, put him in cuffs, easy day. Everybody's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, tack pen, right? So it's just a solid piece of brass, impact weapon. This goes back to Filipino martial arts are big on this too. But if I put this in certain parts of the body, he's going to respond whether he feels it or not. It's not about pain receptors. It's nerve. Nerves don't like to be touched. Shove a piece of brass on a nerve. I guarantee you, you're getting a response. That's what happened to him. So this tool I love because I could take it everywhere. I take it everywhere. I used it when I was bouncing. I use it in law enforcement. I travel with it. I'm a big advocate of it. Like if there's times where you may catch me without a gun or a knife, but you ain't gonna catch me without my pen.
I love talking. Where was that pen? I asked this question and almost like an ad, it was like, boom, my tack pen. And then did the best explanation of why a tack pen is your go-to. Was it on the desk the whole time?
No, it's in my pocket. This thing stays like on me. Like it was in my pocket.
That's how you
The
know he
knives were
ain't
on the desk.
bullshitting. That's how you know he ain't bullshitting. That thing, is your gun on you?
No,
Probably not.
but
Is
I
your
got a
knife
knife
on
on
you?
the table and I got
Okay,
the pen in
and
my
tack
pocket.
pen.
Like I said, you're catch me without a gun. You're catch me without a knife sometimes, but you ain't never catch me without a pen. But
That's
it's my go-to, and I love that thing. And it's super easy to work if you just understand the human body, and then if you add skill sets like the fight game stuff on top of it, animal.
one thing I love about the podcast. I'm very intentional with conversations. I love talking to people, learning about people. If this conversation was never recorded, I could never replicate what just happened. But now I could just go back, yo, you got to go listen to like this shit was awesome. Go listen to them. Tell me what you think. And they'll already understand. So now when I'm at work, I'm gonna be like, can't catch me without my tack pen. It's an inside joke because everyone's gonna know now. I love it. Dude,
Oh,
I love that. I love the idea of podcasts. Now I hated them, but now I love them because I get to talk to dope people who are. You catch me without a gun, knife won't catch me without my tack pen. I'm a,
yeah, that's
I'm
gonna
gonna get a
become a
tack
thing
pen.
now. We should put that on a shirt.
Put it on a shirt. It's your idea. Put it on a shirt. What is the biggest red flag you see when evaluating a new student or trainee?
Mentality. Right, like that's going to tell me a lot, right? You can teach techniques to a lot of people, but how it is they absorb that information and try to utilize that information, and like the mentality and work ethic behind their delivery of when they do it is going to tell me a lot about that person. So, like, that's the type of stuff that I'm kind of assessing, right? Are they just going through the motions, or are they actually really trying to make this work? Like, where are they in their head when they're actually applying this stuff? Uh, because as we know from the fight game, I could give you a good technique, but if you deliver it with like a lack of violence of action, a lack of mentality, and you're just going through the motions, your success rate on that technique is pretty low. I could take someone who may not know that technique very well, but their delivery of that technique is on point because they're relentless in their mentality and willingness to make it work, right? They're there, right? That goes a long way. And that's something that I feel like you could bring out of people in teaching, but it's also something you can't really teach. It's either there or it's not, but you could bring it out if it is there. And when I see that, I know that I have a really good piece of clay to work with. If I don't have that and I try to bring it out and I'm still not getting it, I know that that's going to be a harder situation for me because I could get them close to the reality aspect, but you can't quite get them there because they're not willing to go there. If you can't go there mentally, I can't get you there physically. You know what I mean? There has
N-
to be that, and you see it when you teach
Yeah, no,
techniques and how
that's
people
a
go
good
through them.
point. Like, and then you're telling people like you're trying to tell them like no, like snap or whatever. But what you're trying to get to is that like act like you want to fucking do this. Like there's some people who just they walk around like wet noodles, and in
Yeah,
training they're just and I'm like no, like when like for example, when you're trying to do some sort of sweep or something, and they're just tugging at the legs, and you're like no, like wham, and then you see them do it, and they're like do the same thing. They're very lackadaisical, and that's a mindset thing. It's not
it
that they don't
is.
have the ability. It's just not connecting, and they're just not wanting to or not choosing to, or they're scared of too much whatever. It's a mindset thing. I know
For sure,
exactly what you're
it's a
talking about. I
mindset.
just can't explain it, but
Yeah,
it's
it's a
almost like they don't
mindset
want to
thing.
be there.
And the
And
mindset's most important. And that's where like the training, I would stop the physical stuff and we're gonna do go mental for a minute. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you even here? Why did you show up in the first place? Like what are you doing this for to begin with? Like you need to have like a solid why. Because right now you don't have it. Oh, it's fun. It gets me in the house. Like that's what I'm seeing. That you're delivering it like that. I'm like, okay, well, like you got a family. You take your family out to eat. Okay. So what if I walk up to your wife and I slap her on her ass and be like, hey, forget this loser. Why don't you come with me? You know what I mean? How are you going to be able to deal with that? Let's say I grab her by the hair and I start dragging her along. What are you going to do? Like, you got to have something that you're willing to fight for, and you got to go places in your head that are oftentimes quite dark or unimaginable in order for you to be able to be like, okay, I can deal with that, or I'm willing to deal with that, or this is what I'm actually preparing for one day. But if I don't have the why, then I'm not going to be willing to do it. And I often explain that to people. I had a guy recently in our department who got tuned up pretty bad, and he was in the hospital and stuff. And then, he got out, and I had to kind of go through remedial training with him, and I did. And I was like, "Hey, why don't you like get some training? Dude? I showed you what to do here, how to better fix your situation, but I was like, you should, we have open mats at the time. We had open mats. I was like, why don't you come in, get some training?" Da, da, da. And he's like, "Oh no, I don't have time." Da, da, da. I'm like, "Okay, like you don't have time." So I was like, remember when you were laying in a hospital bed and your wife was standing over you, looking at you, like, and not sure if you were going to be able to like make it home to your kids and stuff, like." You think she's gonna be upset if you're like, "Hey, hon, I gotta take a couple hours out of my day here to make sure that we never have to sit through that again?" You really think time's an objection for her? She's gonna be like, "Dude, go. I
take
need
all
you
the
to
time.
go." Yeah, because I need you to be able to do this. It's like, "Oh, well, I got a newborn at home too, so I gotta help out with him, right?" And I'm like, "I get it, but that's even more of a reason why. She doesn't wanna raise that kid by herself. You want someone else calling that kid daddy, right? This should be your motivation to train. You almost didn't make it home that day because your mouth wrote checks, your ass couldn't cash. Guy called you on your shit, put you in the hospital. If you're not willing to go train now, then you better be willing to accept that that kid is going to be raised by someone else. And one day that guy's going to be like, "Hey, kid, go get me a beer," while he slaps your wife on the ass. If that's not motivation to get out here and train, I don't know what is. But you got to have something bigger than yourself to fight for. And that should be bigger than yourself to fight for, right? I think you should just do it because you want to go home and live off this great pension that we're supposed to get. But if that's not enough for you, then do it for your family, do it for your newborn. But it's got to be something bigger than yourself because obviously you don't care about doing it for you. It's got to be bigger than you. So we got to play this mental game and you got to start to figure out what am I willing to accept and not willing to accept, Right. I had a woman in training that I was working with, and we were doing a self defense thing. She got out of a real bad relationship too, domestic stuff, and I was helping her through that. And same thing. I was like, that was bad, but there's worse situations. Like this could have happened. Like if you're not willing to do this now, then you have to be willing to accept what comes from not doing it. And I could tell you right now, that's way worse than what I'm asking you to do right now. Right. And if we don't go there in our head mentally, we're never going to go there physically. Because again, people don't rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's the perfect choose hard now
Mhm.
to be equipped later, right? Like if you're gonna like choose to train now so that when you're on the side of the road by yourself in a hard situation, you're better equipped to deal with it. Right? Like
Correct.
it breaks my heart because I'm torn when I see a video of a cop getting beat, and you know how it ends. It ends with them not going home, and they're kicking their feet and they're flailing and screaming for help. And I'm like, man, like what? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And
And-
it's a simple someone standing like there was the one with it. There was a female officer or trooper, and the guy had his daughter in the van. He comes out, punches the officer, and then I think he kills her just by beating her face in. And it's like, how did we get here? It was a surprise ambush, but like if you train enough, you see pre-assault indicators. You see,
Yeah.
you start to learn all these things that throws little flags in your head like, man, this isn't a good situation. The dude's approaching me
Yeah.
quickly, hands balled up. He's looking around. These are all pre assault indicators. This doesn't end well for me if I just stand here and do nothing.
Yeah,
You
but you
start to
don't get a
see,
choice, Dan, right? Like this is the you got to decide this long before. And like it shouldn't be that surprising, right? Like if if I sign up for a boxing match, I shouldn't be surprised that I get punched in the face. If I'm signing up for this, I should understand that one day my bell will get rung, right? We're no longer in a setting where you could go through this career and never have an incident. It's going to happen one day. Stay in the game long enough, it's going to happen. So it's like, okay, if I know it's going to happen one day and that's what I'm signing up for and I'm willing to accept, what can I do now to better prepare myself for that one day? And the more days that I have where nothing happens and that builds complacency, what it should build is you being more nervous because it's like, okay, well, I'm one day closer now to this bad day happening because I had one more good day. The more good days I have, the closer I am to the bad day. I shouldn't take that and be complacent. I should take that and actually be a little bit more concerned as to, hey, it's coming. But the concern is not so much that it's coming, it's am I able to deal with it? Well, if the answer is yes, then you're less concerned. You can now live a quality of life. If it's I don't know how to deal with that, time to start dealing with that, right? And I said that's what self-defense is, right? And like when I teach in the private sector, I explain to people like, hey, that's self-defense. But everyone thinks you got to walk around paranoid all the time, be scared and stuff, and constantly vigilant and all this. No, get your head out of grass, put it on a swivel, pay attention to your surroundings. But by no means do I have to walk around scared. That's the one reason why I train, so I could go anywhere in the world at the drop of a hat and not be afraid of shit. What are you going to do? Attack me? Well, you're going to hit me? What are you going to do? Shoot at me? Great, I know how to deal with all of that. So I can now live a quality life because I'm not worried about any of that thing happening because I know how to deal with it. Why would you not want that? That's the greatest gift you could ever give somebody. It's the greatest gift you could give to yourself because now you could go live a quality life. Why don't you ensure that you can do that? Then you could extend that to others. Now I could ensure that my family's safe, right? If we take on the role of law enforcement, I could ensure that my community's safe. My brothers in arms are safe, right? We could extend it to other people, but only after we could do it with ourselves. And most people ain't even willing to do that with themselves. And that's upsetting, right? Because it's like you're gonna get called on it one day. We're not baking cakes here. You know what you signed up for. We no longer live in a what if, it's a when. So let me just do what I need to do to be able to not die. Don't have to be the greatest in the world at the fight game, but I just have to be able to know enough to not die. Let me do that. That's my job, right? Like you talk to most cops, why are you getting in this game? No, the benefits are good, the pension's good. Well, none of that means anything if I can't live through it, right? Like I got to
yeah,
be able to live through it. So why not take some time out of my day to ensure that not only am I going to get the good pension, I can actually live through that, right? Like, and there's a couple things that come with that. Like one is the fight game to being able to understand I can live through that when someone tries to take that away from me. But then like the health aspect, Let me make sure that I'm taking care of myself from the health side of the point so I could deal with that. If not, it's not worth it to me.
If that don't motivate you to start training, I don't know what else will. Like, I'm gonna just like, hey, you don't want to train? Just watch this Well, actually, if they don't want to spend an hour training, they're not gonna spend 3 hours listening to our conversation. So that doesn't help. I'll just make little. I'm just gonna have Chenisms. That's what I'm gonna call them.
Yeah.
Chenisms. I'm just gonna blast them on social media.
It's funny. My buddy's he uses chin checked. He's like, you've been chin checked. And he just hashtags that every time like I drop a statement like this, because I end up with a lot of speeches, right? When I'm teaching and I'm just like very this guy. So he's like, oh, you just been chin checked. And he made a thing about it. So
I'm stealing that. And anyone knows if you're a good instructor, you steal a lot of things. So
yeah,
I'm stealing
go
that.
for it.
um, and the final rapid round question. You obviously put yourself through a lot of hard things, right? You were a fighter, went pro fighting. You were in private military, private contracting, active law enforcement. You're training in that. Like, you have never settled for the standard. You've pushed yourself beyond that. What does relentless mean to you?
For me, it's like that pursuit of betterment, right? We got to be attached to growth, right? And it's just that upward ladder, right? We're always climbing. I could always be better. There's always someone better than me, but then I'm just going to try to make that list as small as possible to the day that I die. That ability to be relentless, I think part of it too is throwing so much stress at me, having so much stress thrown at me, being able to get through all of it. Uh, the feeling on the other side of that when you do get through it is like addictive, right? And now it's like I love that feeling. So it's like, okay, well, what else can I do? How much harder can I go? Can I do that too? And then you do it, and you get that little bit edge, and you do it again, and you do it again, and then you just start chasing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that very much is my life. And it gets hard. And look, I'm a human being. Sometimes I do get burnout. Sometimes it hits me, and I'll just kind of get in my feelings for a minute, and then I'll shake it off and I'll get through it again. And then like that feeling is great. And then just knowing that I can do that, it's the one thing that I have like control over. Me being able to be relentless and know that I can deal with whatever comes at me. And even if I don't deal with it great or I don't deal with it right now, I can deal with it. I do get through it. If I'm willing to do that to myself, no one could be willing to do that for me and me not be able to push through or achieve something. So it now opens up doors, opportunities, quality of life, so many things just by knowing that you can push through. And I think what I'm attached to the most with that is the growth. If I don't feel like I'm growing in life, I I get like pretty depressed. Like I don't do good with that. Like I have to be working on something. It has to be something bigger than me, and I got to be doing it. And if I'm not in moments like that, I don't do well. I could be quite self-destructive. That stuff is good for me to do that. And it's like I could start breaking it down and I'm like, well, what is it that I'm attached to? It can't be the stress. Nobody could love stress as much as that. If so, I should be in a padded room, right? Like there's got to be an issue here. But I think what it is the growth. I'm excited about the growth and I'm excited about the feeling of the other end of that, right? You do hard things that you don't think you could do, and then you get through them and you're like, I can do that. What else can I handle? That becomes a way of life, that becomes a level of development. And there's real power in that that nobody could take away from you. Like that is a you thing. And there's not many things in this life that you have that kind of control over. That is a you thing. And if you have something like that, it's worth building because it's yours.
You took, dude, that is like how I live my life, and I can't ever explain it to people. I'm just like you're just always chasing something. It's like, no, because everything, like what I'm doing, like it's all connected. How do I connect it? Right? Like, how do I explain the connection? But that is like growth is growth is water to me, right? Like it fuels me, it hydrates me, it makes me feel alive, it gives me. And I have the issue when I don't see the growth in something, I can't connect the growth to it, or no growth is actually happening. I get frustrated. I get in my head about it. Like, should I keep doing this? Why am I doing this? All those negative thoughts come because I either don't see the growth, don't feel the growth, or the growth isn't happening. That's the like you've explained it so well. We're gonna have to have an episode 2 because I got some
Yeah,
personal questions I want to ask.
for sure. That for sure. I think we're definitely cut from the same cloth, understand a lot of the same things. So like it's super refreshing to have these type of conversations with people because I don't think it's the masses. So when you get that sense of connection where we could start to tap into these things and kind of help not only each other, but maybe other people out there that are feeling these same things and can't quite put words or perspective to it. Sometimes just hearing someone else's perspective of it can really help um, how to kind of move forward with that or how to manage that or understand certain things. And also just know that like it even though it feels like just a you thing because you're the one dealing with it, like, well, there's other
Other
people out there
people.
that are going through it too. And that collaboration, that ability to be able to have these conversations, normalize this stuff, put this stuff out there, that stuff's super important, right? And people, like again, like I said, there's times where people see me as such a strong individual. I handle so much, I do so many things, but like I said, I have moments where I get in my head. I have moments where I'm down and depressed. I have these little moments of doubt. What if? What could I? What am I doing wrong? And the beating up on myself. Like it happens. It's a real thing. And people don't normally get to see that side or hear that side, but I'm outspoken about that side. I think for a long time in this industry, that stuff was always kind of pushed down. And it was like you weren't allowed to feel that. If you felt that, it was some level of weakness and whatnot. And I disagree. And I think like getting that stuff out there and speaking about it and showing that, yeah, look, it's normal. We can feel it. The difference is how you deal with it. Do I let it keep me down and just stay in it, or am I willing to push through it? It's okay to feel it, but you got to know how to kind of push through it and work through it and like there's strength in that and get attached to that, learn to love that. If you can start to gravitate towards that part of the process, that's going to move the needle on the growth thing so much. And now you're just kind of itching for that next challenge, that next level of growth. Like the man I was 3 years ago was nowhere near who I am today. I'm excited to see who I'm going to be 3 years from today. And you start to kind of lean into it and incredibly healthy. And I think in our industry, that's stuff that needs to be talked about a lot more too, because I think a lot of guys don't talk about that enough, and it's underutilized.
I agree. I think we tend to hide from things we fear,
Hmm.
feelings, vulnerability, all that we fear, so we hide from it. But it's like a fight, right? Let's take jujitsu. Biggest guy in the room. You fear him. You don't want to get hurt or whatever. You avoid rolls with him. Are you going to get better? Are you going to learn how to deal with that? No. If you ever get paired with him, he's going to probably steamroll you because you've never put yourself in that. It's the same thing with our vulnerabilities. Call them out. Check them. Right? Put
Hmm.
them out on the table. Call them out. If you can't shoot, if you're not a good shooter, don't sit here and talk about all the clashes you've been to. Don't sit here and talk about how great you used to be back in in the 90s. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm not a good shooter. I need to get better. Call it out, acknowledge it, and take the steps appropriate to deal with that. Start shooting. Start doing drills. Reach out to someone who's going to help you. Same thing with our mental health. We do it with everything else. We don't do it with our mental health. It's like, you know what? Man, I've been having a fucked up time lately. Man, that time sucks. I don't like that. I don't appreciate it. Call it out, check it, and then take the appropriate steps. Hey, man, let me talk to someone. Maybe I'm not as fucked up, or maybe I'm more fucked up than I think I am. Talk to someone if they're like, hey, bro, man, I've been seeing your performance has been down. You've been kind of staying in. You ain't been doing the normal stuff. Oh, you know, talking to someone who knows you that can help you because they know your norms, and you may be so in your head you don't know you don't know that you're acting different or thinking different or saying things. So it's the only thing we don't do. Our mental health. We'll go to the gym. We'll go to all this. We'll ignore our mental health and be like, no, that's good, and then we won't tell anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this community is horrible for that. But I'm super outspoken about it. Like I think it's just training the mind. We train our body, right? We train our skill sets. We got to train the mind too. I got to be sharp there too. And I think that's almost harder. Like the physical stuff I could deal with, right? Like if I have to deal with like emotional stuff, I have a hard time with it. If I find a way to manifest that into physical, I could deal with it. But I have to manifest it to physical in order for me to be able to deal with it because I struggle with dealing with it on the emotional side of the house. So mindset, super strong, right? Physical attributes, super strong. Emotional, it's a weak point. I have to manifest it to something physical so I can now work through it. And then now mentally, I'm better for it. And like that's always been my methodology and it's what's been working for me. Right. But part of it too is me acknowledging that I know where I'm deficient. I know where I'm weak and I know where my emotions are starting to kind of get the best of me. And I could see that downward spiral starting to occur. And then my ability to be able to address it. Right. I don't think you ever kind of cure it. You just learn how to manage it. Right. And part of it is being self aware. You have to just understand like that's a real thing. It's okay. It's normal. Uh, Instead of trying to have it not be there or ignore it, just learn how to work with it and channel it efficiently, right? And also your social circles, have them be able to know that too. And sometimes when you're missing it, they could bring it to your attention. And like that's what we need. That peer accountability to be able to do with each other is huge. And I talk about that stuff all the time. And I think that's something that we used to have in this community that we don't really have as much anymore. And it's sad because doing this career without that is so much harder.
And it changes now. To close everything up, we've talked about a lot. You've shared a lot of fantastic ideas, things about yourself, your approach. And this is kind of where we tie everything together. Give people like the bundle, and we deliver it to them in hopes that they take this and now apply it. To the listener sitting on the couch right now, making an excuse about why they can't work out or start their business or train, what is your message to them?
People have done it that are way less smarter than you, less knowledgeable, less motivated, less capable, and they've done it. If they could do it, you could do it too. Part of that, you're learning the fight game. Everybody bleeds, therefore, everybody could die. Therefore, I have the opportunity and the ability to kill anybody. Yes, they may be better than me, but I can win, right? So they may be the better fighter, but I can win, right? Uh, I would never give another human being more credit than they deserve. If another human being has already done something on this planet, then I could do it too. What makes them different than me? We're going to piss and shit the same. Okay, they may have a little bit more knowledge, they may have a little bit more money, a little bit more opportunities, but at the end of the day, they are the same human being as me. And chances are, once you get to the top of these things, you start to see it, right? Like most of the time, that business entrepreneur is not smarter than you. And we gave that guy way more credit and we thought he had way more opportunity than us. And that was so not true. What it was is he was willing to start and never stop. And like his relentless attitude was what got him where he needed to be. He learned the skill sets along the way. He gathered the capital along the way. All that stuff was gathered along the way. The difference between him and I was he was willing to start and never stop. And if we constantly make the excuse of, well, that person can do it, I can't do it, we'll never get it done. I would say never give another human being that much authority over your life. We're all human beings. We all piss and shit and eat the same. If another human being did it on this planet, why can't I do it? Why not me? I can do it. I may have to work a little harder for it. I may have to train a little longer to get it, but I could do it. Right. I'm the dude that's crazy enough to believe that stuff human beings haven't done yet, I can do. Because all it means is a human being hasn't done it yet. Someone has to do it first. Once one guy does it, then every other human being believes he could do it. Now more people start to do it. It's the same way when the sub 4 minute mile was broken. Um, at the time, scientists, everybody said it was impossible. And I was like, funny, scientists talking about running. You don't know shit about running. But then this one guy believed that he could do it, right? He goes out and does it because it's only impossible because no one's done it yet. As soon as he does it, it's now possible. Now you got other people that can do that. And now it's a pretty common thing in that community. But it wasn't for so many years because no one believed they could do it. And then a human being did it. Now other human beings believe they could do it. That's how it should be. Don't ever give another human being more authority than they deserve. If someone could do it, you could do it too. I would say go further. And if a human being hasn't done it yet, then go be the first.
That's crazy. I just saw a post of something like that, and then you said it. It's still maybe on my. It's still maybe. I can't talk. It's still maybe on my story. That's how fresh. That's crazy. Did you post that?
No,
Maybe.
no, but
Okay,
just something that's been in my head for
dude. That
a
is
long time.
yeah. If someone else has done it, it means it's possible for you to do it. If someone else has not done it, be the first.
Yes.
If that's something you want to do. If someone listening wants to become a more capable human being, like you've mentioned earlier, what is the very first step they need to take tomorrow morning?
Mm. So it's going to be self reflection right away, right? Like, what can I do to be better? And I got to do a hard inventory of my life, right? Like, where am I short and where do I need to excel the most? And where am I going to get the most training value out of where I'm at right now? Like, training allocation time is important, right? So I have to think, well, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Law enforcement suck at this, right? They always want to shoot all the time. How many times do we really get involved in the shootings? Not too much. However, we put hands on people every single day in this job. So the chances of that going bad are much higher than a shooting. So if I'm going to do training allocation time, I should be putting more time into my defensive tactics than my shooting because probability over possibility. Yeah, it's possible I could get into a shooting, but it's way more probable I'm going to get into a use of force that's going to be a hands-on situation. So if that's more common and more likelihood, that should get more training allocation time. So if I'm doing a hard inventory, I need to realize that's where I need to put the most time right now. Maybe because that's where I'm most efficient, and it's also because that's what's most probable. Let me go ahead and put my time and energy there. And I think if we do that little self assessment, that hard inventory, it's going to help find the answers to where we're going to do more of what we need to do than what we want to do. Right? Yeah, look, I love to shoot too. It's great, good at it. It's an important skill set. It's a hard set, get it. But probability wise, I got to put more time in my DT because it's more common, especially in our line of work. So I think we want to be a better human being. We got to start thinking about, well, where are we short? And then where am I going to be pushed the most? And let me make sure I'm putting my time there primarily.
And this is probably the easiest question I've asked you the entire show. Where can people follow you online, look for the knife, sign up for the course, follow your journey?
Yeah, so I use the Instagram a lot for my social media. So at Direct Action Training, this is my logo, so super easy to find. Um, that's the social media platform that I use the most. Uh, directactionusa.com is the website. That's where you get access to the pens. That's also where you could get access to the knives once they're launched, which should be soon. Also, all the seminars, workshops, all the things that I teach, I'll either put them on the website. But lately, they've been selling out on Instagram before I could even get them on the site. So I would say follow both just to stay above uh, the water on that. Um, but from my website, you could also find all the Facebook, the YouTube, and all those other links to all that stuff. So between the website and the Instagram account, you're going to get the most direct access and most up to date on anything I'm doing. And if you want to be a part of it, that's the easiest way to do it.
So that's where you'll find direct access to the direct action
Yeah,
training.
that's it. Yeah, look at that.
Look, I try, you know. It's not good, but it's honest.
You're killing it.
And one way I like to end with, the show's ended, we're done. People are gonna get in their cars, they're gonna listen to their next song, next podcast, they're gonna go back to their lives. I've implemented this thing now where before we end, I want to give people your 30-second philosophy summarized. So in about 30 seconds, if you can summarize everything about you, everything we've talked about, your mindset, your approach, everything in 30 seconds to give people, that's the final thing they're going to hear before they get into their lives and approach to be better people. What is your 30-second philosophy?
Be a better human being. Do what you can and what you have control over to make sure that you can live the life that you want to live. And one day somebody's going to try to take that from you and just be able to deal with that. If you're not able to deal with that, recognize it and do better. And there are a lot of valid training companies out there. Just make sure you do your homework to vet them appropriately and be able to ask those questions to see if they can answer those whys and principles and concepts. If they can, chances are you're in a good spot. Learn what you can, but also don't be afraid to change rooms. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of stuff to offer. And ultimately, your goal is to be the best you can be. You don't have to pay any kind of homage or lineage to one person other than yourself. So do what you need to do to be the best that you could be. And if that means changing rooms and ruffling feathers and upsetting people at times, it's okay, because the pursuit of betterment, the pursuit of growth, the pursuit of your well-being, and then extending that to anyone around you, that's a you thing, and you got to do what's best for you, and don't let other people dictate uh, your actions in life, right? Like take control over it. And there's so much power in that.
I appreciate that. That was good. I like that. Especially in the beginning. Like if you want something, go out and get it, but then be ready to protect it.
Yes.
And how do you protect it? You got to do your research on making sure you're doing the appropriate things to do that. So gives you a lot to think about, a lot to inventory and go, you know what? Maybe I'm not, like, I love what I'm doing, but I'm not ready to protect it. I need to do this. Like, take an inventory of your life. You said that, and that stuck with me. Not many of us sit down and go, you know what? Maybe I'm complacent. I want to be better at this. Push for that. And then how are you going to protect that? What are you going to put in place to make sure that stays intact? Whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. If you're building something, protect what you're building. Well, brother, I appreciate you for sharing your story, sharing your methodologies with us, sharing your business, your approach. You're definitely going to be, you're going to have, I'm going to say it on air. Usually I give people off it. You're definitely going to be invited back. So many things we could talk about, and I'm excited to pick your brain some more. So I don't know if you know, but I am a part of Seminar Stack. We
Oh,
need to get your brain there, whether it's a seminar, vendor table, you just showing up. I don't care what it is, speaking. We'll find a place for you. Hopefully, Eric and Kate don't kill me for making the executive decision, but I've made the executive decision. I want you involved in some way. So like this, your mindset is very rare. So when you find it, bro, you gotta sharpen your tool. And how do I sharpen my tool? Talking with you. That's a good way to start. So I appreciate you for sharing your story. This is the one with Stephen Chin, and we are out. Later. And that was my conversation with Stephen Chin. You know what time it is. Before we get out of here, I have a challenge for you this week. Stephen talked about how the more stress you can handle, the more capable of a human being you become. See, most of us live in temperature-controlled boxes. We're looking at screens, avoiding anything that makes our heart beat too fast. It's time to change that. It's time to get chin checked. Your challenge this week is the Stress Inoculation Challenge. I want you to intentionally put yourself into a highly uncomfortable, stressful, physical situation this week. Go take your first jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai class. Do a 3-minute ice bath. Do a workout so hard you want to quit halfway through. But here's the catch. While you're in that stress, you can't quit. You can't panic. I want you to focus entirely on controlling your breathing and keeping your mind quiet. Teach your brain that you can survive the panic. You can do the hard things. Share this episode with one friend who you think would be inspired by this conversation. Follow the Relentless Project on Instagram, X, and YouTube at Relentless PRJCT. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, show some love so we can keep bringing you awesome guests with relentless stories. And remember, we don't settle, we don't quit, and we don't wait for permission. Love you all. I'm Ish Lopez. This is the Relentless Project, and I will see you on the next one. Later.